Welcome on in. Good morning. It is Monday, and it looks like I was completely right. How about that? How about that? Closing the Strait was saying open the Strait was incredibly fucking dumb. Who knew? Who could have seen that coming? All that happened is you gave Trump more space to attack your country. Wow, amazing. Now, again, obviously, I don't think I know more than the IRGC and the resistance, or like resistance fighters in the Middle East. I'm not trying to be a armchair general. I'm just saying that from my understanding of the implications in America, for which I am an expert, by announcing the Strait was open, you gave Trump more time to attack you. Who knew? This rage bait? There's no rage bait about it. You know I'm fucking right. My exact analysis happened. You said they were selfish because they're right wingers. Okay, I mean, listen. I gotta be honest with you guys. I'm not a fan of political Islamist formations as fonts of resistance because they're genealogically related to Mossad in the United States. Now, a lot of them have ending up on the other side of the battlefield from those forces, but overall, I don't think that Islamist forces are in any way liberatory. That being said, I'm not here to nitpick. I'm not here to nitpick resistance forces. I'm just talking from a more theoretical, ideological point. And I don't think that any of them are, that being said, what do I fucking know about decolonization? I'm a white guy, right? Like, who fucking closed again? Stock markets don't soar. Oil prices are going up again. Oil prices up 5%. I think it was last time I checked. People, we're in very Schmittian times. And I say this to people all the time. We are in very Schmittian times. What the fuck does that mean? What that means is you have to be on the team. That's what people want. They want you to be on the team. So the entire struggle is whether somebody's on the team or not. It's okay you predicted wrong, huh? I mean, I'm happy to go back to what I said on Friday. I started the day with they must be closer to collapse than I thought because this was giving Trump's. It was immediately clear to me that it was such a gift to Trump that it must be a sign of imminent collapse. And then as we talked about it over the course of the stream, I said, you know what? I think this is just they don't understand American politics. They didn't understand that. They were doing the game of international diplomacy, and they don't understand that Donald Trump doesn't care. And the only thing he cares about is the markets. So the markets go up, oil prices go down. Trump can attack them more. Israel can attack them more. The only pressure that Iran has is a material pressure on the global economy. And what Iran needs to do is break American trader optimism. And this is the main thing that Iran needs to be doing, and I feel very confident in saying this, and fuck you if you don't like it, is they have to break the back of investor sentiment, which is this. Dow is flat even after Iran ceasefire setback as investors bet on eventual de-escalation. Like, you were believing the completely open narrative? Well, that's what Iran was saying. And then they changed their... I was going off of the Iran government's public messaging in English, and I thought it was a disaster. And it was. And you know how we know? The stock market went to a record high. Now, and what happened immediately? They broke the ceasefire. America broke the ceasefire. Wow, I can't believe it. I can't believe Israel and America broke a ceasefire. Wow, I'm hearing this for the first time. And the reason why they are able to do it is this. It's Taco Trump, Taco Iran. Until Iran breaks the back of investors and convinces them that they're not going to de-escalate, that the world economy will suffer consequences, then Trump will keep attacking Iran. That is the reality. And by the way, there's no way to disagree with me. The IRGC itself came out and attacked the statement put out by Arachi. Well, yeah, but that happened as we were talking about it on Friday, right? And I modified my position as more and more information came out. So I'm talking about the position we had at end of stream, not the position we had at the beginning. It's reacting to breaking news, man. You definitely said Iran fully lost and it was over and American empire wins again. That was what I said at the beginning of the stream. That's what I said because of what Arachi had tweeted, which was incredibly stupid. It didn't make sense, which is why the IRGC came out and revoked it. It's okay. It's not that big a deal. We're back to where exactly what we thought would happen. I probably did overreact assuming that Arachi had unified control, was having. The other thing is, and this is probably what we should learn going forward, is you can't take statements from the Iranian government as statements for the entire Iranian government. It's fragmented and uncoordinated. So Arachi is saying one thing, the IRGC says other things. There is no that is something that we need to take into account going forward. And the walkback. I mean, listen, I want you to understand something, and this is just the way I go and how everybody goes, which is if the information changes, you should change your mind. And sometimes it's going to be a whiplash, but if the information is different, the information is different. That's just the way it goes. I will never hesitate to walk back if the empirical information comes in and changes. So that's all you have to say. And as I was saying, we live in Schmittian times. So if I give analysis that says the Iranian government is doing X, Y, and Z thing badly, people that are opposed to American empire are going to be mad at me because I said that, right? That's the mentality people have now, which is my side or the side that I'm identifying with or the side that I think is on the right side of any conflict or is the lesser evil. They're right about everything. And the other side that I'm an opponent to is wrong about everything. That's the Schmittian brain. And we have that. It just exists on the internet. Everyone's a Schmittian. Everyone is us versus them. That's my enemy. Enemy is perfectly evil and perfectly wrong at all times. I'm perfectly good and perfectly right at all times. There's not a lot of like space for critique of your own side. And most of what people do is like, they don't really critique people. They try to put them in a various camp. That's why the like debate on Hasan is not really about what Hasan said. It's more about he's not one of us. Yes, he is one of us. No, he isn't one of us. That's the argument. It's not like Medicare for all is a good policy. No, Medicare for all is a bad policy. Hasan supports Medicare for all, which is a bad policy because X, Y, and Z. That's not a conversation we're having. We're having Hasan is bad. He's a terrorist supporter. No, he's not. He doesn't support terrorism. Yes, he is. You're just smearing him, hoping that enough people see the smears and not the arguments. And that's the Schmittian example that we're in. We aren't on the side. We're just seeing the physical reality of the board in front of us. Me too. Me too. Me too. So overall, I want to say that in general, it appears that stocks, the American government, both the markets and the policymakers, simply believe that there will be a de-escalation. And they also believe that Donald Trump has the ability to do a one-sided de-escalation. Paralyzed can't plug, paralyzed pendant plug 6, gifted 25. Thank you. I'm not sure I understand what the fuck that means, but thank you. Did you miss a spicy Friday stream? It was mostly me pissed at Arachi for posting the dumbest thing ever and helping Trump. You know, if I was the Iranian government, I'm taking the fucking Twitter account out of Arachi's hands. That was such a fucking blunder. It was insane. So stocks today slightly down, oil up, but not even above $90. I think you would have been right about Iran losing the war if things had gone ahead and Iran allowed oil to flow freely for 10 to 20 days. And that's exactly right. That's true. Trump is so arrogant that he refused to lift his blockade, leading to things falling back to the default. Yes. The Iranians tried to open the Strait of Hormuz, but Donald Trump was like, no, the Strait of Hormuz is not open to Iran. And shot at Iranian ships. So the reason why we don't have an open Strait of Hormuz is because of the United States. And then the IRGC also started to threaten ships as well. Investors are misreading news about the Iran war. And this is the point that I've been trying to make, which is America is controlled by investor sentiment. Donald Trump doesn't care about opinion polls. Donald Trump doesn't care about anything. The only thing he cares about is the line going up? If the line is going up, Donald Trump is doing well in his mind. Okay? So if you want to make America pay, you have to make the line go down. That's it. Iran has given up and Trump stupidly is closer to the collapse than anyone thinks. Was as stupid from the second Arachi made his post. Iran was clearly still strong. Had not given up just the nationalized Strait. You really should have said that. No, I agree with you. I think it's very clear that Arachi was not speaking for the entire Iranian side. And that was my mistake. And I will say that was a mistake, is assuming that Arachi would not tweet something that without having complete consensus within the Iranian government. And right now, maybe consensus formation is not possible. And you don't want to extrapolate at this point based on anything that's being said as far as in statement. And, you know, I think that's a better procedure going forward. And like, I think the reason why I overreact or why I reacted the way I did is because I'm aware of this idea. Maybe maybe the strategists are not aware of this, which is the only way to put pressure on Trump is by crashing the markets. So if the Iranians want to win the war, they have to crash the market. So that's what they should be focused on doing. Like, I mean, from their perspective. Because what's happening now is Donald Trump and the American markets are totally fine. Why? Because investors are betting on de-escalation. Iran isn't going to return to talks until the U.S. drops the blockade, apparently. Well, there you go. Invasion happening then. We're back on board. We're back onto the invasion happening. If the Iranians successfully keep the Strait closed, the economies of the world will crash, especially starting in Asia. So it's just that's just the way it's going. Because it's a gamble and not reflective of reality. Well, but it is reflective of reality. Yes, the markets are a gamble, but they are also reflective of reality. Markets make their own reality through consensus. Does that make sense? Because the investors, they have money. How do markets work? Bid-ask spread. You bring money in and you're bidding for stocks and you're bidding for oil contracts or you're selling them at a certain price. That's what the market is. That becomes reality. The way oil is selling on the market is how much it costs at the pump. Now, markets also cannot be completely disconnected from reality because at a certain point, the oil future contract has to deliver the 100 barrels of oil, right? And if there's just not 100 barrels of oil, if you sold a contract for 100 barrels of oil, but you don't have the 100 barrels of oil, you legally have to go and get 100 barrels of oil for the person you sold the contract to. That's how it works. And eventually, if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, that oil is not going to be there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a massive issue. You're the one. Okay, guys, I don't think there's really much of a disagreement that we're all having. I think the main disagreement is, was what Arachi tweeted on Friday damaging to Iran's side? I thought it was catastrophically damaging. Other chatters are saying, hold off, you're overreacting. It doesn't represent the Iranian position. And I think that's largely true. I think that the chatters that said that, which is, I don't think that Arachi's tweet is actually reflective of Iranian policy, were correct. Now, I don't know of any chatter that actually said that. I'm just creating a chatter in my mind. And so largely, I go with that. And the events that have taken place since Arachi's tweet on Friday, which allowed the markets to skyrocket. Again, remember, that's kind of the information that we should all be paying attention to. I mean, like, look at the drop that happened on Friday. Look what Arachi's tweet did. Oil was trading, and then Arachi tweeted, "Strait is open!" Whee! And that gave massive, and you know, this is crude oil prices going down. If we go into the stock market, we go to the stock market. It was going along. Whee! The Strait is open! Yay! Look at that gap up, right? That gap up happened because of that stupidity. And that helped Trump and America weather the economic damage. And politically helped Trump because if the stock market is soaring, then Donald Trump is going to get more support domestically, which means what? More support for his foreign policy. It's very bad. It was a very stupid thing they did. So all in all, here's what I'll say. Clearly, Iran is not defeated. Okay. So any extrapolations we made based off of the opening of the Strait, that's not correct. Okay. Iran is clearly not defeated. Two, and this is the other thing that I will say, Arachi clearly doesn't represent the entire Iranian government. There are factions within the Iranian government that are operating independently of whatever Arachi is saying. Okay. So that's the other thing that we should start. Three, and this is the most important point, until investor reality is the same as actual material reality, the war is going to go on. Complacent investors risk getting wrong-footed as they continue to misread developments in the Iran war, analysts said after markets reacted to the brief reopening of the Strait of Hormuz on Friday, only for their hopes to be dashed. Growing investor optimism over an end to hostilities in the Gulf has helped propel stocks higher since the 2-week ceasefire was agreed between the U.S. and Iran on April 7th. Tehran's announcement on Friday that the Strait was open to shipping spurred a strong market response. And this is exactly what I'm saying. This is what Iran needs to, if Iran's goal is to pressure the United States to accept concessions, they have to break this idea in the market sentiment and the minds of capitalists worldwide, right? Because the people of countries don't support it, but we don't have any political power, okay? We don't have any ability to influence anybody to stop anything, okay? And so this kind of like investor sentiment is what needs to break. And what we need to see is capitulation. When oil is at 150, when the stock market is down 20%, then I think we'll see how much the United States is willing to continue fighting in Iran. All right. And unless that happens, the Iranians are going to continue to be bombed by Israel and the United States. Unfortunately, Iran is a reactionary state. It doesn't think like us materialists. No. Anytime you do analysis like that, and that includes me, you are going to make mistakes. Everybody has an element of idealism. Everybody has materialist foundations. If a government is completely unmoored from materialist reality, they wouldn't be in power. That's also why the left in America needs to be smarter, right? Like, that's why I've been taking the positions I've been taking on AOC, Graham Plattner, Abdul, etc. Is it's easy to love a socialism of your own mind. It's hard to build a movement with other human beings in it that's getting any kind of political power in reality, right? I mean, Alex Parenti talks about this idea a lot at Black Shirts and Reds, which is like, you want to look at the revolutions and say they're not perfect, but those revolutions are dealing with actual reality. They're dealing with like, hey, you have to take care of this baby who was just born. You've got to bring rice to the market. You have to build this electrical facility. You have to heat homes and educate children and, solve crises and deal with limited resources. And the socialism that is dealing with reality and material reality and trying to manage a specific group of people at a specific geographic extent has crises and problems. It is going to have to make intellectual and other compromises in order to provide. Did I say Alex? Michael Parenti. Sorry. Yellow Parenti. Did I say Alex? My brain is rotting, chat. You can seeing me get dementia. Did I say Alex? What the fuck am I talking about? Michael Parenti. Did I address this? Yes, I did. This was my response. Hold on. Wait, did I not? I thought I did. Maybe I saved it on my phone, but I thought I did. Oh, apparently I blocked Stardust. I forgot about this. Also, did you guys see that Trouble Man guy? He said, voters are in charge of picking the president, so how are they not to blame for who the president is? And I said, this centrist is about one post away from saying America deserved 9/11. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh, okay. I quote tweeted somebody else. And said, damn, you actually managed to make him uglier. But I guess people didn't like it. They didn't think it was that's like my worst performing tweet of the year. But I thought that was a banger. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. Did. I watch and read the fake news pundits and polls with total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made up stories, and the polls are rigged, much as the 2020 presidential election was rigged. Just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about. The results in Iran will be amazing. And if Iran's new leaders, regime change, are smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. That's why tweeting the Strait is open was very dumb. Now, I think what we're going to see, and I've said we've seen this pattern for 4 weeks now. Something happens on a Friday to cause the stock markets and the oil prices to crash and the stock markets to rise. And then we go through the whole weekend, and then some event happens on Sunday or Saturday, which says proves that whole thing was wrong. And then the markets slowly bleed out for a while, and then it happens all over again. You can see these, look at these dips. Rise, 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 dip. Rise, 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 dip. Rise, dip. Rise, 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 dip. Rise, 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 dip. Like, we're having these same things where the markets want to go up because that's the material analysis proving that oil is restricted. And then there's some dumbass fucking sentiment that is poured into the markets on a Friday, and it causes the markets to dip. And here we are again. And it's like, if you want to get control of the situation, you have to make it clear that we're not anywhere near a resolution and oil will be shut. And honestly, like, the sentiment of the markets are completely delusional. The fragile ceasefire is set to expire on Tuesday, and some strategists have warned that investors are at a risk of misreading how news about the conflict is reflected in market movements. Matt Gertkin, chief geopolitical strategist at BCA Research, said the investors had adapted to respond to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff announcements since Liberation Day last year, but should understand that Trump is not in control of events in the Middle East. The market is believing this is like Liberation Day, that President Trump could raise the temperature, but then lower the temperature at the perfect time, and that he's the maestro. But we could be in a different situation now, but because Iran has been attacked and they have a higher pain threshold. This is exactly the problem, is that Iran should say nothing that makes the markets calm.
Just give us your overview, your take on the situation as it stands at the moment. I saw one diagram of a ship beginning to cross the Strait of Hormuz and then doubling back on itself. Do we know if there's any traffic going through at all?
Well, right now, thank you. It doesn't seem like there is. You know, what we see is that the Iranians have a strategy: engage and tie down the president in negotiations, but then drag their feet, make the negotiations difficult, undermine them from within, so that the oil price remains uncomfortably high and you start to galvanize policy change in the United States. They want to play on the fact that the U.S. public is very divided over the war. And so that means getting a slow start to this negotiation, which is premised on a ceasefire and resumption of traffic, getting a slow start on that. And
then in terms of the uncertainty around the talks, I mean, there are certain indicators, even before they've begun, that this is on shaky ground. The fact that the vice president isn't going this time. Okay, it's a high-level delegation, but it's not the vice president. J.D. Vance won't be traveling to Pakistan. There are doubts about whether the Iranian regime is going to partake. And if they don't partake, you can't have talks with just one side present.
Right. Now, that's exactly right. And that fits with that same strategy where the negotiations themselves are very tenuous, very flimsy. They've also had to be pushed back several days, and we see this ratcheting of tensions ahead of time to build leverage. So what that reflects, though, is not the fact that Iran can afford to have the president expand the attack to target their economic capacity. They really don't want that extension, and President Trump is constantly reminding them that he can take out power plants, bridges, economic capacity. So they do have a major incentive to continue to engage in negotiations. They're drawing them out in order to draw out the economic pain until the point at which they're absolutely forced to sit at the table. And that can, again, play to their favor, as U.S. voters are going to be making up their minds. Usually middle of the summer is when U.S. voters really start to form their opinion.
A fair point, that, though, but the Americans are blockading Iran's ports. I mean, Iran can't string this out indefinitely. I mean, this blockade presumably is going to hurt them at some point.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that's one of the strange dynamics here, is that the U.S. has now moved to cutting off their government revenue with the blockade. And so it is starting to move on their economic ability. And that is one reason why they're now ratcheting back up and saying, well, we can punish the American economy as well. But we've already seen several times in this whole affair that the U.S. has a very low pain threshold. The U.S. consumer has a low pain threshold, but also the president does because of the midterm elections.
Yeah, really good point you make that. I mean, is it me, or is there an increasing tone of desperation in some of these posts that the president is putting out on social media? I mean, he's basically repeating himself over and over again, as you've been saying.
Well, and you know, I think the way we should interpret all of that is that during war, during the fog of war, communications are deliberately deceptive. There's a lot of disinformation from both sides. And I think markets are finally starting to see this. The problem is that the market is reading it as a reason to get bullish, because it's saying, you know, we want to get back to the rally, and we know that eventually they have an incentive to negotiate and come to a deal. But the problem is there is no solution yet to the nuclear part of the deal, which is why the war is happening. If you take away the nuclear issue, you can't really explain why the president attacked Iran during an election year. So you need to have that nuclear issue in there, which means that even if we de-escalate in the coming months, despite Iran's choppy behavior, we could end up re-escalating later as we get toward the election or after the election. And that means that over a 12-month time horizon, investors really should be treating this seriously. They shouldn't be overly complacent about about the crisis.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned US public opinion there. It seems pretty entrenched. Is there anything likely to shift the needle one way or another, or is it just down to gasoline prices?
I think it's mostly gasoline prices, and I think that's part of the Iranian strategy. When oil's at 100 per barrel, you are roughly at a $4 per gallon gasoline price in the U.S., and that's where Americans are always grumbling. And you start to see, like with President Biden, remember we had stickers at the gasoline pumps saying, "I did that," and he's referring to the price. Now that can come back and bite President Trump. So of course the Trump administration knows this, and they're trying to tamp all this down. But right now, the best they can do is engage in a pointless series, or maybe not pointless, hopefully, but it could be a pointless series of negotiations for 6-7 months, tamp down the oil price, but leave the nuclear issue till later, which for those of us who are looking beyond a 6-month time frame, we have to remember that nuclear issue will come back.
Another 6 months of this, I can't bear it.
and Matt, I just wonder
I mean, again, the reason why the Iranians are facing so much pressure is because Donald Trump and the markets they've developed this taco Trump. Trump is God and can open and close these sentiment, and he can stop it and start it. What the Iranians need to do is make it very clear that they're not going to open the Strait. And they need to say, we're not going to open the Strait for 1 month. Come up with, they should be issuing ultimatums. If they want to break this up, they should be issuing ultimatums. And they should say the Strait will not be open for 1 month because X. Like whenever Trump does something, there's some bombing or some attack, the Iranians should be issuing ultimatums and then enforce that ultimatum. It might even take a month. Just say it for 1 week. We are closing the Strait completely. It will not open because if the Americans and the Israelis do X, Y, Z thing. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I understand American trader mindsets. They think that Donald Trump is like about to negotiate a peace deal, and they don't want to be on the they don't want to be on the long side of oil, because if oil starts flooding into the markets, oil prices are going to crash. So nobody wants to, everybody's selling their oil for cheap because they think it's going to go down $20, $30 the moment the war ends. When in reality, oil is precious. It's not going to be cheap for a long time. But in order for Americans to understand that pain, it has to be the actual material realities need to be reflected in the market sentiment. And until Iran can achieve that, America's going to continue to attack.
Update that I read shortly before we brought you into the conversation about the sanctions on Russian oil remaining eased, the extension of the sanctions waiver remaining in place for longer till the middle of next month. There is a circularity here, isn't there? Because if Russia is still making money from oil, and it is supposedly, potentially, reportedly helping Iran, then that money essentially is going round to fund Iranian attacks on America and its Gulf allies.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So what that shows is that at some point the president will have to decide whether he's going to be the commander-in-chief pursuing long-term national security objectives, which would mean nuclear and reasserting control over Hormuz, or whether he's going to be the leader of the Republican Party focused on preventing a wipeout in the midterm elections. Right now, he's really still acting as the leader of the Republican Party, trying to salvage the Senate in the midterm election and trying to do some things to palliate this crisis. But if at any point the election becomes a lost cause, the president's incentives flip, and then he really must pursue that long-term objective. And that could mean ratcheting up sanctions on everyone who's helping Iran. It could mean enforcing the blockade much more stringently, and it could also mean attacking the economic capacity or even ultimately trying to topple the regime.
In the meantime, we've got the congressional hearings into Kevin Walsh's appointment as Fed chairman tomorrow. Is that going to be fairly straightforward in your opinion?
I'm not sure that the hearings will be straightforward, but what I am sure of is that there was a period where the president was attempting to pack the Board of Governors and manipulate the Fed. And what we've seen is a series of actions from the Senate and soon from the Supreme Court that will ultimately prevent him from personally controlling or creating a irresponsibly ultra-dovish Fed.
And Matt, from when we look at what's happening in practice, the reality of the situation, and then we look at a week, last week, in which the US benchmarks not one, not three new intraday highs and closed at 3 new record highs on subsequent days. Is there a risk that the financial markets are overly optimistic in their pricing of where we are, because we may be past, we may not even be past, but at best we may be past peak escalation, but we're not past peak impact financially and economically, are we?
That's right. The markets are wrong on both counts. One, President Trump's pain point is actually quite a bit lower. You can have a full-fledged correction again in equities before he has to completely capitulate to this Iranian assertion of influence in Hormuz. But then beyond that, for the longer-term issues, Iran has a much deeper pain point than the market is really thinking about as well. And so what we see is that the market is believing this is like Liberation Day. President Trump can raise the temperature, but then he can lower the temperature at the perfect timing. And he's sort of the maestro. But we could be in a different situation now, and that's because Iran has been attacked and they have a higher pain threshold, and they're not really integrated in global markets.
And what's really aggravating about this situation is let me just say where my mind is at. For me, it's like we don't know what's going on. And this is a very frustrating thing, so I'm just going to say it straight up. We don't really understand. No American analyst or commentator understands the insights within Iran. Okay, like we don't have sources of information from Iran to be able to tell you how the political factions are consolidating. Where is sentiment? Where is, who is rising? Who is falling? What is the condition of Iranian deterrent? Like, what percentage of their weapons are actually available? What is the, production pipeline? Like, do they have a pipeline of drone production, as an example, or rocket production that is greater than the attrition that they're losing from the use of the weapons / the strikes that America and Israel are doing? Like, we don't have a strategic picture. We just don't, okay? We have some indicators that we can look at and maybe make an extrapolation, but we don't know, right? And there's a very wide range of possibilities for what the current conditions are in Iran, an extremely wide range. And I tend to be on the side, at least I have been operating on the side that Iran is undeterred and maintains the ability to create pinpoint strikes on vulnerable targets in their near geographic region, including on ships in the Hormuz Strait. And that the United States is unable to interdict the Iranian military completely. And so within our economic reality, that capability by Iran, as limited as it is, represents strategic strength. And that is a threat to the global economy. That puts pressure on the United States and the West. Okay, that is my analysis. However, I also believe that the Iranian government and state is under extreme pressure because they don't have the ability to defend their country from American and Israeli attacks. So they could cause damaging attacks on the near region, but they cannot defend their country from American and Israeli attacks due to qualitative superiority of American forces. Okay, the American forces have exquisite weapons that are of such a material edge that they cannot be defended by Iran. Now, it doesn't mean Iran is completely vulnerable, but it means that, for the most part, America has superiority operating over Iranian airspace, and they have the ability to strike at will around Iran. It doesn't mean they have complete control or dominance. It means they have superiority. Do you get what I mean? I'm using these terms as political terms of art, military doctrinal terms of art. So what the difference between dominance and superiority, those relating to the operating conditions, right? So the United States Air Force could fly into Iranian airspace and drop bombs from 35,000 feet, right? And they're largely going to be unthreatened by Iranian air defenses. Now, if they fly down to, say, like 10,000 feet, well, then they can be attacked. So they don't have complete dominance over the entire country, but they do have superiority in the sense that they can strike anywhere with Iran at those, at 35,000, 40,000 feet, using cruise missiles, using Tomahawk missiles, etc. So what that means is, like, if the United States decided they wanted to carpet bomb all the power plants in Iran, they probably could, and Iran wouldn't be able to stop them. However, if the United States decided they wanted to invade Iran, there would be a whole shit ton of, FPV drones. There would be a whole shit ton of Shahids. There would be a whole shit ton of shoulder-fired rockets. There would be all sorts of their own, electro-optical anti-air targeting systems that they have been demonstrating. Like, the United States would take a horrific casualties if they tried to invade boots on the ground. But we can shoot rockets from 700 miles away, or fly B-52s, maybe not B-52s, B-2s at, 40,000 feet and carpet bomb something. We can do that. And so that creates a situation of escalatory spiral. In my mind, this is what I think. I think as long as Iran maintains their ability to cause catastrophic damage in the Strait of Hormuz region, the near Gulf region, the logic is of an escalatory spiral, right? Because the United States can't defend, it can only attack. And Iran can't defend, it can only attack. And so what does that mean? It means both sides are going to attack more and more and more and more until one side is bearing a cost they don't want to bear. And it seems right now that Donald Trump is the one who is operating under that logic. And that's why he's been so focused on, controlling market sentiment so that he doesn't have to pay a price. Markets, oil prices are now up 6% today. So it appears that oil prices are starting to surge again, operating under the idea of what I just said. But not so much so that but that's not what everybody thinks. There's not a panic. There's not a panic, although 5% in one day is an extremely large move. It's nothing compared to what we've seen the last 3 months, right? Iran owns and never lost control of the Strait. That I think is correct. I think, okay, here's what I would say. Both sides control the Strait. So in other words, that's to say that it is contested control. What does that mean? It means that neither side can transit the Strait without the approval of the other side, which means both sides control it. But when you say control implies that you can use it. So neither side controls the Strait, or both sides control the Strait, depending upon what you mean. And that has to do with the logic of what I just said, versus like defensive technology is inferior to offensive technology in our current conditions. You control what you can destroy. No, you control what you control. There's positive control and negative control, right? Like if I can't take my car out onto the street, is that my car? If the moment I take my car out of the street, it gets fucking destroyed, I don't really control the street, right? So we're living in this kind of mutually assured destruction paradigm, where, and yet Trump is escalating. That's the condition. And this is the weird thing, is the markets are not operating as if that's the conditions that we're in. It's really fucking stupid. Bro, fuck the markets. What are you talking about? The markets are why Trump is doing what he's doing. What the fuck are you talking about? The market's going up is why Trump feels like he can do what he's doing. Yes, of course it is. The moment the markets go down, Donald Trump is going to change position. That's what he always does. That's why they call it Taco Trump. You expect the U.S. to maintain military control. I like the term blockade. Both sides are blockading the Strait. That is the accurate way to understand the conditions. It's not control because one side can't use the Strait. Neither side can use the Strait, right? After this shit, there's no way people think markets are real. Markets are real, but they're also not real. They exist in a condition of simultaneously being real and not real. I know that's very frustrating for your brain to understand, but they do indeed exist in both of those conditions. Markets contain both material reality and speculative projection. So that is both real and unreal, because the speculative projection is based on what? Human sentiment and consensus, which is conditional, but they reflect real shit. When you go to the grocery store and you go get a rack of ribs, baby back ribs, those ribs are in your supermarket because of the markets. I want you guys to understand that. There is something called the pork futures market. We call it the lean hog price, okay? And when the lean hog price goes down, do you know what happens? McRibs come back. So is that real or not real? Lean hog is a type of hog pork futures contract that could be used to hedge and speculate on pork prices in the U.S. Lean hog futures and options are traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which introduced lean hog futures contracts in 1966. The contracts are for 40,000 pounds of lean hogs and call for cash settlement based on CME Lean Hog Index, which is a 2-day weighted average of cash markets. Minimum tick size of the contract is 0.025 per pound, or 2.5 cents per pound, which each tick valued at $10 USD. That means, what does that mean? So there you go. Like literally. So is this real? Because you could go to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange right now and buy yourself a lean hog contract, and when the date comes up, it will execute, and your broker will call you up and say, you need to pick up your 40,000 pounds of pork at this place at this time. Is that real? Please explain how onions get to the store even though onion futures are banned. Oh, fuck. Don't even get me started. Don't get me started with this shit, okay? I don't want to go through all the fucking weird commodity rules. Yes, that exist on all the different items in the store. Don't even get me fucking started, okay? Is there a long pork market? No. It's not as far. Well, I mean, there is, but it would be a black market. But it does exist. I mean, you could buy. There's a market in products in human leather and human flesh and human bone and things like that. That definitely exists. Rich people love that shit. What? People are surprised. People are now surprised that rich people are evil. First time hearing rich people are evil? First time? Don't make me search human leather, bro. Don't make me search human leather, bro. Search it on your own computer. You can remember this story? I have lost everything and I'm not sure how to continue. This summer I invested $17,000 into ornamental gourd futures, hoping to capitalize on this lucrative emerging industry. After watching a video about Vincent Kosaga and his monopoly on onions, I decided to try to do something similar with another vegetable. I did some research and found out how many agricultural forecasters expected this year's gourd yield would be far smaller than the past. At first, demand soared around Halloween and prices skyrocketed, but the gourd bubble burst on November 12th. Unfortunately, the coronavirus caused a massive drop-off in demand due to fewer families decorating their tables for Thanksgiving, and prices plummeted. I think this story is fake, but it is entertaining. All right. Anyway, what was I saying? The reason why I'm saying this shit is because I want leftists to be more connected to reality, and it always makes me cringe when leftists talk about certain things without knowing how the world actually works. And unfortunately, this dumbass shit is how the world works. I am so sorry that this is true. I mean, we have like lumber, corn, wheat, soybean, cotton, rough rice, sugar, coffee, cocoa. I mean, there's more, but like, this is how the world fucking works, man. People die based on these numbers. Deep cattle, lean hogs. I don't know the difference between FD and LV cattle. So that's a good question. I don't know the difference. I'm not a commodities futures guy. I don't know the difference between these two cattle futures. I've never really feeder cattle versus livestock cattle, live cattle. Okay, gotcha. What is a live cattle contract? I'm gonna learn about this for the first time. Live cattle is a type A pound, $5 a pound to $7.40 a pound fed cattle prices. Cattle producers, feedlot operators, and merchant exporters can hedge future selling prices for cattle through trading live cattle futures, and such trading is a common part of a producer's price risk management program. What do you get? Like, what is in the contract? It's live cattle, right? Deliveries may be made on any day of that month, the first 11 business days of the next calendar month, excluding the live graded deliveries may not be made prior to the 9th business day following the first Friday of the contract month, and may not be made on Christmas Eve nor on New Year's Eve. The deliver assets for the contracts are 40,000 pounds of 65% choice, 35% select, yield grade, 3 live steers or live heifers. All cattle must be born and raised exclusively in the United States, with no individual animal weighing less than 1,050 pounds or more than 1,500 pounds, and no individual heifer weighing less than 1,050 pounds or more than 1,350 pounds. A delivery unit must consist entirely of steers or entirely of heifers. Interesting. A heifer is a cattle that never had a calf. And I think a steer is castrated, right? A steer is a castrated male, right? Yeah, before maturity. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So there you go. So it's 40,000 pounds of live cows. And they're like, well, it depends on how many cows is that? Well, it depends on how fat they are. But each cow has to be at least 1,050 pounds. Where do they pick them up? Interesting. From ranches. No, well, that would change the price, right? Like, the price of a cow on your ranch is different than a price of a cow delivered to my ranch, right? 26 to 38 cows based on those restrictions. Yeah. So there must be like a stockyard where they pick them up. Anyway, this is how our economy works. All right, where were we? Okay, so the United States has fired and seized an Iranian flagged ship.
The U.S. destroyer fired several rounds toward an Iran-flagged cargo ship. President Donald Trump first announcing the U.S. Navy fired on and took custody of that cargo ship after it tried to get past the American naval blockade in the Gulf of Oman. Now, this comes just hours after the White House said top U.S. officials are preparing to take part in another round of peace talks with Iran in the coming days, and it marks the latest escalation amid this ongoing fragile ceasefire set to expire in 3 days and an impasse over control of the Strait of Hormuz. It's prompted renewed threats by Trump, raising already heightened tensions in that region. CNN's Julia Benbrook is at the...
We're fucking shooting each other. What do you mean tensions? What the fuck do you mean tensions? We're shooting each other. That's not tensions.
White House. Julia, what more are we learning about this incident with the Iranian vessel, and how is the president and his team thinking about these negotiations in a few days?
Well, with these negotiations coming in a few days, every hour, every day, every development matters. So as President Donald Trump announced this, he said that U.S. forces had fired on and seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship as it attempted to pass through that U.S. naval blockade in the Gulf of Oman. Now, I want to pull up that post for you now. He did go into a bit more detail. He said, quote, the U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the Tausk in the Gulf of Oman and gave them a fair warning to stop. The Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. Right now, U.S. Marines have custody of that vessel. Trump's announcement comes as he has accused Iran of violating the current ceasefire.
So this is just piracy. So there you go. We're doing piracy.
That we are in right now that has a few days left. He was recently asked if he would consider extending that if a deal is not met by then, and he said
no, the Strait of Hormuz is open, but we shot at one of their cargo ships and then seized it.
Not. Maybe I won't extend that.
Joining us now, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton. He also served as Trump's former national security advisor during the first administration. Ambassador Bolton, thank you for being here with us. I just want to start by getting your reaction to this news we have now about the U.S. Navy firing on and seizing this Iranian-flagged cargo ship.
Well, this is what blockades do. This ship, a very large tanker apparently, was trying to run the blockade. They were told not to do it. They kept going, so apparently we fired a missile into their engine room. That's usually a pretty good way to stop a ship. Marines boarded it and are presumably taking it into custody. I might say not only is the ship apparently in violation of the blockade, it is also a ship we've sanctioned. It may be part of what people call the ghost fleet. These are basically ships with shady ownership that change their flags of registration on an hourly basis. And that's a separate independent ground to board the ship. It's a stateless vessel, if that's true, and therefore no state can complain when we board it. It ought to be a lesson to not just to Iran, but to any other ship owners or insurance companies that think they can run a U.S. Navy blockade.
Yeah, we're waiting for, obviously, confirmation of that. We don't know exactly the case on that just yet. Do you see this, though, as escalatory, or is this expected?
Well, if anybody escalated here, it was the government of Iran to challenge the blockade. I believe this is the first serious ship, maybe some Fisher's Dow may have made it through the blockade. But if this is as large a tanker as it appears to be, I don't think they went out there by accident. So Iran may have been, the Ayatollahs, the regime, may have been trying to see whether we really did have resolve if somebody didn't turn around when they were ordered. Now they know the answer to that.
What do you think it means for the ceasefire?
Well, it's probably not good news, but it's exactly the right thing to do. I don't think Iran should make a nickel off of its oil as long as this conflict goes on. And frankly, I think the next step has to be the U.S. And Israel militarily opening the strait to ships from the Gulf Arab states to get their oil out onto the water. The way Iran has turned this control of the Straits, blocking it on and off like a light switch, shows somebody needs to take the light switch away from them. They do not have the authority to do what they're doing. It's unacceptable to the Gulf Arabs, and as a country whose foreign policy has rested on freedom of the seas since before the Declaration of Independence, we should open it up on that ground alone.
And before this war started, Iran, to your point, to continue your analogy, didn't really seem to know that that light switch that was so powerful that they can really control so much and have so much leverage. Do you think that that has been one of the unintended outcomes of what's happening? And do you think, I know you say that the U.S. and the Israeli military should take it back. What would that even look like?
Well, I think we've got plans for that. I think part of the operations are already underway or were before the ceasefire. Look, this notion that somehow something new has happened, though, I don't think is correct. Any Navy in the world knows a choke point like this when they see it. And in fact, the Iranians before, during the Reagan administration, were firing on tankers in the Persian Gulf, and the U.S. and Kuwait arranged for the tankers to be reflagged as American ships and were escorted by American naval vessels through the Gulf and out the Strait. What the Iranians did was take this potential leverage of closing the Strait and make it a reality. And if there's any silver lining here, it's now everybody understands what's at stake. And there's no way that Iran should come away with the lesson that they can close the Strait anytime they want. They need to learn the exact opposite lesson, which is they better not try it again. That's how you restore deterrence. That's how you prevent whoever is ruling in Iran from thinking they can do it again.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It's just like if that's their takeaway, that could be quite problematic. And so what would you like to see happen then specifically?
Well, I guess we'll find out tomorrow whether there are talks in Pakistan or not. We're getting one signal from the White House, a different signal from Tehran. We'll find out tomorrow. But the notion that was being spread around at the end of last week, and I think reflected in stock markets and oil prices, that this thing is almost over, that the differences are almost resolved, is just flat out wrong. You know, when people talk about sticking points like opening the Strait, like possession of the Iranian nuclear weapons program, like their support for international terrorism. These aren't minor details. This isn't 80% of the deal done, but just a few minor things to work out. These are the existential issues that in many senses caused the U.S.-Israeli attack to begin with.
And we were hearing from Julia Binbrook there, the president saying in one of the telephone interviews that the vice president won't be going due to security concerns. What does that tell you, if anything? And I know, I hear you. We have to see if these are actually even going to happen. But how are you thinking about these potential discussions?
Well, I think they're a waste of oxygen. In fact, I think it was a mistake to have the ceasefire. The overwhelming preponderance of weapons being delivered was by the U.S. and Israel on Iran, not by Iran on everybody else. They've gotten now a 2-week breather where they're doing what they can to recover, regroup, get ready for the next phase of the war. We never should have let up on them.
Yeah. Do you think J.D. Vance should be going? Obviously, the president's saying it's a security concern.
Yeah, I can't speak to the security concern. It wasn't such a concern the last time, but you shouldn't send the vice president. He's one level below the president. We don't know that the people the Iranians are sending have any authority to commit their government to begin with. If we were going to send a high level...
I mean, I think like it says everything you need to know that the CNN coverage of the negotiations is Bolton, who, by the way, chat, is a vicious, disgusting neocon warmonger, but also has absolutely no pull in the Trump White House. That's the thing that's even fascinating about this, which is it's like you pick the guy who's a gigantic warmonger, but he also has no knowledge of what's going on in the White House and no connections to the White House whatsoever. So he's not somebody who actually knows anything, but is an ideological extremist unmoored to anyone. Who the fuck is picking John Bolton to be on? CNN is correct. It's batshit crazy. Like, you could have somebody who is an opposite, you know, somebody in government who's an opponent of the war. You could have somebody in the government who is in favor of the war, but has some sort of insight into the Trump White House. You're picking John Bolton. Who the fuck is he talking for? He's not connected to the Republican Party. I mean, I guess he's more connected to the Democrats now. I mean, wait, Trump campaign tweeted about Hasan. Okay, I don't think Team Trump is technically part of the White House, right? Is it? Is it the campaign? It only has 2 million followers. I think this is just like a fan account, right? I don't think this is part of the... It would have a gray check. This just means somebody paid $1,000 for a special colored check mark. I guess they sell Trump merch. Never surrender $40 for a snapback? Bro, you gotta be fucking kidding me right now. I mean, it says the official Trump X account for the Trump campaign, so maybe it is. Who fucking knows, man? Don't ask me. I don't fucking know. Let's go back to looking at CNN.
Official, it should have been the Secretary of State, not the Vice President and not civilian volunteers.
Yeah. And what message do you think that sent to the Iranian negotiators?
I think they smell panic in the White House. I think they can see Trump wants out of this. He's broadcasting it almost every day, and it gives the Iranians enormous leverage they shouldn't have.
Yeah, and so to that point, we have all the polling to back this up. This war has proven to be unpopular among the American people. Obviously, we're in a midterm election year that is several months away, but we're still getting ever closer. How much of that do you think is playing into the decisions that are being made now?
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I don't think the president's making geostrategic decisions. I think he's making domestic political decisions. But a large part of this is his fault. He made no effort whatever in the weeks and months before the attack to build the case.
When Donald Trump sees Hasan for the first time, I feel like all of the staffers around Trump are doing everything they can to hide Hasan from him. But it's only a matter of time. Donald Trump is going to walk out into the Rose Garden, and he's going to have a giant poster board of Hasan in the bathtub and Hasan with the underwear thirst trap. And he's going to be like, the radical Islamist Hasan Piker, he is trying to cause American men to become gay. He is being sent by the Iranian government to make American men gay. Look at these two pictures. I looked at them a lot last night. And let me tell you something, chat. Let me tell you something. This is really bad. This is an attempt to turn us into pillow boys. He wants to make us all into pillow boys. I don't know. Trump's weirdly likes hot people that are his ops. That's my point. He's going to be like, I've decided to invite him to the Lincoln bedroom. Did you know that's a bedroom in the White House? I'm going to convince him that America is strong and good. Close enough prediction. This is such an old post. Holy shit. Trump is going to do that. Austin is right. When Trump wins the presidency in 2024 or during the campaign, it's a guarantee. It's a lock that he's going to criticize Hasan for the mansion. It's a fucking lock. It's going to happen. It's going to be the biggest day. You're going to have the... By the way, this was in 2022, and I was like, oh yeah, Donald Trump's going to win in 2024. It's a... This was in 2022. I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to win. You look like another person. You don't say.
For whatever his objectives were, and we still don't know what his objectives were.
Yeah, your foresight is impeccable. I mean, it's not impeccable. I've gotten a thing wrong or two. I thought Bernie Sanders was gonna win after the Nevada caucus landslide. I was like, Bernie's gonna do it. I really thought Bernie had it after the Nevada caucus landslide. But white liberals, man, white boomer liberals, they were like, no. And I was surprised at how anti-Bernie Elizabeth Warren was. Things I got wrong in 2020. I thought that eventually Elizabeth Warren would drop out and endorse Bernie in exchange for a vice presidential pick. I thought that would happen. That made sense to me. Like, I thought that Warren had no chance of winning, but eventually Bernie was going to call her up on the phone and be like, hey, you and I have worked together in the Senate. I admire you. Why don't you, join my, campaign, be my vice president, endorse me. You'll be a great surrogate. We'll work together on a lot. I thought that would happen. That did not happen. I was completely wrong about that. Because that's the most logical thing to me. It's like, if you want to win, you should consolidate your lane. And Elizabeth Warren was the biggest impediment to consolidating the left so-called progressive lane, right? And so I thought there would be a natural alliance that would form. But Elizabeth Warren was a dedicated anti-Bernie candidate. She was in the race to stop Bernie. And, you know, that became obvious after she got humiliated in New Hampshire. There was no argument for her to remain in. And yet she stayed in. She said she was going to stay in until the convention for the purpose of blocking Bernie. She went on the debate stage and called him a sexist. Then she broke her pledge not to have a super PAC in order to attack Bernie Sanders through Super Tuesday. Like, I did not see that coming. Like, I was anti-Elizabeth Warren early on. This is by the way, chat, this is actually another Mike was right moment, because I was yelling at Sam Cedar and what's his fucking name, the Zionist, fake progressive, David Pakman. I was like, why are they being so nice to Elizabeth Warren? She shouldn't be in the race. She has no fucking chance. Why is Majority Report and David Pakman being so nice to her? The day you said you were wrong, I don't think this is the day I said I was wrong. I have to give a mea culpa, folks. Everybody get your clip finger out. Oh, this is I was wrong about Elizabeth Warren. I had, for the past, almost the entire time on this bro, the clip doesn't even say anything. Useless clip. Useless clip. I was gonna, I went on to say that I thought Elizabeth Warren would be, I was really talking about past Mike from like even years before that. I thought Elizabeth Warren would be an ally for the left, and it turned out that she was our op. And you can see it in Michigan right now, by the way. She endorsed Mallory McMorrow. Why the fuck did she endorse Mallory McMorrow over Abdul al-Sayed? Mallory McMorrow is anti-Medicare for all. Why did Elizabeth Warren intervene in Michigan to endorse Mallory McMorrow over Abdul al-Sayed, who is one of the authors of Medicare for All, a medical doctor, and already has the endorsement of Bernie Sanders? Because she's a fucking snake. I door knocked in Northern Virginia. They are afraid of progressives because they think we can't win generals. That is something I've been talking about for a long time, which is you should think about politics in the same way you think about picking a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a spouse, which is you don't marry someone you think other people find hot. You marry the person you think is hot, okay? You don't marry someone you think other people would like. You marry a person you like. You don't marry someone or date someone whose personality you think other people might like. You marry or date someone the personality that you fucking like. And politics is the same way. We have been convinced, and I call this pundit brain. This is like one of my first emotes. And in fact, if anybody else talks like this comes directly from me. This is my point. I've been saying it for a decade now. So this is literally something I came up with, which is that Democratic voters act like pundits. They vote like pundits. ESA pundit, I think, was like my third emote. This is Nate Silver, me making fun of this. I call it pundit brain. I've been saying it for over a decade now. And it is, Democrats are convinced that they need to like operate as a Democratic Party consultant. Let me see if I even said, I don't know if I ever tweeted it. Oh, here you go. 2019, before I ever streamed, just so you know how old I've had this take. Spend less time as a pundit and more time as an authentic person seeking to do the most good possible. Americans are a lot more progressive than you seem to think. And frankly, I don't think you has a clue. You have a clue what the horizon of political possibility is. Okay, I've been planning this for a while, so here it goes. A thread of why I hate Bernie. I said, you live in Sweden where all the policies this is January of 2019, that Bernie supports are in effect, and you're out here attacking him to Americans without a social safety net. That's evil. And your pinned tweet is a medical debt GoFundMe for your parents. How can you not see that we need serious reform to the system? Is your critique of Bernie really the fact that he stayed in the race until all the primaries were done? What the hell is wrong with you? What these birders don't understand is that Medicare is not that great. My mom died on Medicare. My dad is still paying off medical bills from her death. Medicare is not as great as people think. What Bernie wants is not Medicare for all, so it would rip down the system we have now. Bernie's plan is a significant upgrade to the current Medicare system. It involves absolutely free care at the point of service with no co-pays, deductibles, or financial charges of any kind. I'm sorry to hear that your parents are dealing with medical debt under our for-profit system. Listen, I wish the USA would be more like Sweden. I can't even live in my own country again due to medical issues. Yes, this is true, but Americans won't go for it. Americans scared too easily and are prone to believe propaganda. That's not going to change. I wish it would. This woman started this conversation by doing a hate threat on Bernie Sanders. And then when she tried to have a conversation about the policies, she admitted I was right. Now, I'm bringing this up because this is before I streamed, chat. April of 2019. I wasn't a content creator at this point. So I've been talking about this kind of, so just so you understand that I've been talking about this idea, I'm just saying this is my idea. I've been talking about this as a problem for many years. Like, we are living in a world of fully metastasized pundit brain. Here's a cure. Vote for who you think has the best policies and who is the most authentic person who could be relied upon to keep their word. December 8th, 2019. Yeah, pundit brain means that people treat politics like team sports and don't actually extract concessions or use power. 2023. Kamala Harris is so bad at this. Pundit brain, September 24th, 2025. So this is my idea. I call it pundit brain, which is basically where people are like, they stop talking about like good policies or like what they support or what they think is morally right. What the fuck is this? Oh, did someone spam the shit out of shit? Oh, damn. Thank you, thank you. Check out this motherfucker. Bro, you have 33 viewers and you're spamming. That's incredible. Why do people buy bots? It doesn't work. I mean, I guess it can work, you know, for some people. Botting is so funny to me. And literally all of Bernie's policies are popular nationwide. All of Zoran's policies are popular across the United States. Speeding up the approval process to build affordable housing, penalizing landlords, and raising taxes on corporations, de-escalation programs, 2% tax on income over $1 million, cutting fees and fines for small businesses, raising taxes on corporations, implementing free childcare, 66% support free childcare from 6 weeks to 5 years, free childcare for every child through infancy. Actually, it's the less generous program is less popular than the more generous program. Raising the minimum wage to $30 an hour, 56% support. Permanently eliminating fares on public buses. That's still majority position, 53. That's the nationwide support. This is everybody. MAGA only wants a strong leader. Well, yeah, they're fascists. They just worship daddy. They don't care about the policies. That's why Donald Trump could say, I'm anti-war. And they're like, yeah, anti-war, no forever wars. And then Trump launches a war. They're like, yeah, war, America's dominating. Because they just worship daddy. That's why you don't try to persuade Republicans by going right. They don't care because you're not their daddy. You can't persuade a Republican because they only care about daddy and worshiping daddy. So if you want to get a Republican to obey you, you have to bring out the belt. They will follow whoever is handing out spankings. All right. What else did I say? Here's me in May 17, 2019, months before I ever streamed. It's actually embarrassing just how much the pundit horse race coverage has rotted the minds of the electorate. Rather than discussing moral views, material needs, or building solidarity with their fellow Americans, voters pretend they are political strategists. So sad. That's exactly my okay, do you guys believe me now that this is my idea that I've been saying for decades? That included before I was a streamer? Is this, can I now take credit for this idea now? Can I say this is my idea? March 11, 2020. This is the best analysis of what's going on right now. And like 2004, pundit brain voting for who you think someone else would like rather than who matches your values is going to result in defeat, just like 84, 98, 88, 2000, 2004, and 2016. Political capital doesn't exist. It's some made-up liberal term to serve as a restrictor plate for progress. FDR slammed through 24 major bills his first 100 days. I'm so tired of these worthless pundit phrases. You heard it on Chapo like everyone else? Absolutely not. No! I mean, maybe they said it. Did they say it before that? I feel like if there's any that actually, I don't feel like that. Now, let me think deep. Hold on. Who else has been saying something like this? Actually, hold on. Wait a minute. Now that you accused me of saying Chapo, hold on. What's his fucking name? I read his book so long ago. Fuck. Maybe it was Thomas Frank. Maybe it was Thomas Frank, who is like a trade unionist journalist. Might have been Thomas Frank. Who fucking cares who said it first? Because I want to give credit to Thomas Frank because he's a really good author. Maybe I stole it from him. Maybe not. I can't find him when he said this.
Mm-hmm. Fuck worrying about electability. Let's get on who's got the best policies and let's vote with our head and think about what we care about, what we believe is, as opposed to trying to be our own amateur.
Oh, this is my first stream. I literally said it. I said it in my first stream. Well, how about that? The crisis of pundit brain. Fuck. Wait, okay, wait. September 18th, 2019. I think I have tweets that are before that. August. No, wait. April 1st, 2019. Sorry. Spend less time as a pundit, more time as an authentic person seeking to do the most good possible. Stop being a terrible pundit. September 22nd. Okay, so we were saying it at the same time. But Nate Silver, the crisis of pundit brain. Okay, honest. Listen, I don't care who the fuck came up with it, but I just want to say that I said it first. I'm pretty sure I recall people saying pundit brain. I want to say it was Thomas Frank. Now that I think about it, Thomas Frank, Democratic voters, lesser of two evils, something like that. I want to say it was Thomas Frank. Is who came up with it. I want to say it's Listen Liberal. It's from the book Listen Liberal. If I'm being really honest, I feel like it was him. I want to say it was them. I want to say it was it. I don't know if he ever said it in exactly the way. I feel like I started saying it after reading his book, because I feel like he talked about, maybe I'm just making this shit up, but I feel like he talked about the nature of Democratic primaries, and I was like, no, this makes perfect sense. Everybody gets pundit brain. I coined the term Saltine X. That's a good term. Mike, you're rabbit holing again. So true. Sorry about that, chat. I wanted to say that this idea is a central idea of my stream. You know what? All ideas are synthetic. I want to give it to Thomas Frank as the person who catalyzed the idea in me. So let's just move on. Read Listen Liberal if you want to understand why the Democratic Party sucks. It's an old book, though. He has two books, What's the Matter with Kansas and Listen Liberal, which are like really important for like contextualizing why the party suck. They are, as I said, I can't remember anything. Mike remembers what he said in 2018. The reason why I remember what I said in 2019 is because it's a core operating idea that I have. Like, there's a few beliefs that I have that other ideas are built on. One of them is Democratic, like the voters are more progressive or are willing to support progressive ideas, but they have a false consciousness about what other people believe, and they have been trained to vote in a harm mitigating fashion. And everybody's voting in a harm mitigating fashion, whereas if they just voted for what they believed in, we would have New Deal style margins. And the reason why the New Deal was so successful is that a Democratic president actually came out and ran on a progressive agenda, a widespread, economically redistributive, populist agenda, and he managed to take the nomination. And so everybody was excited and voted for that shit. And then they saw it happening and it being implemented, and they were excited, and he won 4 fucking terms, because that's where I feel like the American people actually are desirous of that. And all the gatekeepers are set up to block that from happening because they serve the interests of the rich. So if we actually got a competent left-wing economic populist into the position of national nominee for a major party, they would win in a romp. And if they were able to pass their policies, they would become extremely popular. And the reason why I believe that is I looked down in Mexico, and that's what happened in Mexico. In Mexico, they finally broke through the neoliberal gatekeepers of both the center left and center right parties, and they won, and they're super fucking popular as they implement more and more progressive policies. So I see, that's what I think would happen in America too. I think Mexicans and Americans are pretty similar in that they are desirous of progressive change. They just haven't been able to seize power with an authentically populist person. I think they tried with Obama. I think Obama was the person that everybody thought was that guy, but he turned out to be fake. But people still nostalgize for that feeling they had with Obama, which is like, Zoran recently had Obama read a book to kids. I don't know if you guys saw that. And some communists were having a meltdown over it. And my general feeling was, that is Barack Obama endorsing somebody who just said he's happy to campaign as a democratic socialist and who's focusing on state-owned grocery stores, right? Like, that is Obama giving shine to Zoran, not Zoran giving shine to Obama. Obama is out of politics. So if Obama is going to endorse our candidates and they're not giving him anything, then that's just helping make us more popular. And that is him platforming us, not us platforming him. And I don't think Zoran is endorsing Obama's foreign policy, except to the places that is useful for our politics. This is just called politics, man. Like, and what I mean by that is, not 80% of
I think the proper objective is regime change. But whatever he was after, he didn't bother to tell anybody until 2:30 in the morning on February the 28th, after the attacks had begun. That's not how you do it. That's just politics 101 domestically, and for whatever reason, he didn't bother to do it. Now he can see the consequences.
And here to discuss further, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander General Wesley Clark. He's also the founder of Renew America Together. General Clark, it's good to have you here with us. I do want to first just get your thoughts on this news we've just gotten in the last couple of hours about what's
Chad, I might have to go soon. Unfortunately, I'll stay on as long as I can.
Happened with the naval blockade, with them firing upon this Iranian-flagged ship. What do you make of this development?
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'm fine.
Coming into Iran, going to dock at Bandar Abbas, which is the port on the Strait of Hormuz. So it was coming from somewhere else, loaded with cargo, presumably. It's a ship that's already been sanctioned by the United States. It disobeyed orders to stop. The United States then took the appropriate actions. So I think it just proved positive that the president meant what he said when and the Navy implemented the blockade just as advertised.
Yeah. How do you think this impacts these upcoming talks?
Yeah. Well, it really depends on whether Iran wants to move forward or not. Now, thus far, there's been no military response from Iran. The blockade is within range of Iranian missiles that could strike warships out there in the Gulf of Oman. So this destroyer was in range. It did not apparently receive any return missile fire or anything else from the coastal batteries or other facilities of the Iranians. So that's a positive sign. We're sort of in a stage now where it's mutual assured economic destruction, if you look at it that way. So
that's what I just said. That's what I fucking said. Which is, no, that's absolutely right. And I think that's why Donald Trump, why I was so pissed on Friday and depressed was because I feel like the Iranians gave Trump more rope to hang them with. Which is like they gave the impression that the economic destruction wasn't going to happen. So the pressure on Donald Trump was alleviated, which gave him more time to attack them. What the Iranians should be doing is escalating the economic pressure. And they should be saying, we're not going to stop until we get concessions. They need to put the United States on the back foot. Now, they don't want to do that because they worry that Trump will escalate back, which is a very reasonable fear. But the problem is that Donald Trump is going to escalate based on Donald Trump thinks of conciliation as a sign he could keep escalating. Donald Trump only stops when he gets a punch in the nose.
So we're counting on the fact that all commerce has been cut off from Iran, at least all seaborne commerce. So they're not getting any revenue. They're not getting anything else coming in by sea. But they're also blocking revenue that's coming or that would be due to all of our allies in the Gulf. And they're creating a global problem in agriculture, in fuel, and even in chip making because of the helium cut off. So which side is going to blink first? That's what it looks like right now.
Yeah. We are just getting word that Iran state media has now warned that it will respond to this. What might that look like?
Well, they might target the ships that are on the blockade. They do have the facility to do this. They have several different varieties of anti-ship missiles. They have cruise missiles. They have sea-skimming missiles. They have ballistic missiles that can come in. They could go after this ship. They could go after other ships. Normally, they wouldn't fire just one missile. For a destroyer like this, they would try to bracket it with several different missiles and several different types of missiles. Now, are they on the ball? Do they have the real-time targeting to do this? We know that the Houthis did have that. We presume that this came from Iran. We also presume they're getting real-time targeting information out of Chinese satellites. So it's possible they could respond, but they haven't.
Well, I mean, if that's true, that explains why the United States is keeping all of our ships well away from Iranian shores. And this is like, this is why I've always thought that Trump is going to escalate. I've been early in my predictions, which I am reevaluating, which is I believe that Donald Trump is going to keep escalating until the economy of the United States and the global markets take a big crash. So Donald Trump is being bribed by Zionist spies, and I expect him to continue to escalate up to and including the moment that there's some sort of economic crisis that damages the American markets to such an extent that he's getting panicked calls from his buddies in New York and Wall Street. Until that happens, he's going to keep taking as many bribes from Israel as possible. So he's going to be taking the maximalist approach. So the only way to stop the war is paradoxically for the Iranians to escalate to such a point that the markets panic. And then and only then will Donald Trump back down. Now, if the Iranians allow America to keep bombing them and Israelis to keep bombing them and attacking them and undermining them and and stretching this out and keeping the markets growing or calm, it's going to drag on for months and months and months and months. So for the Iranians, the only path they have forward is escalation, because the United States and Israel cannot be trusted to agree to hold to any agreement. It would have to be a transactional deal where the Iranians get the concessions up front. Anything short of that is just nonsense. I've been saying this can't be a forever war because we'll hit global economic collapse before the end of summer if this continues. Well, the problem is if people keep selling their oil for cheap, right? And the other thing is, like, either we're going to come into physical shortages. Maybe that'll be a catalyst, right? Like physical shortages. We just don't have the oil, right? We don't have enough. We have too much demand at low oil prices, right? And we don't have enough supply. That might be a catalyst for the oil prices to rise precipitously, and therefore, for the moment of panic that the Iranians need to actually effectuate a deal. And until that happens, it won't happen. Now, if the Iranians concede before that panic sets in, well, then that means the deal that's going to be opposed to them is going to be really, really maximalist for the Israelis. Mike, money is not blackmail. Trump makes more money in inside trading than what Israel can pay him. I mean, it's not just. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true, because Donald Trump doesn't have control of the markets. He can affect them, and he can make trading wins, but he can't. To truly make big profits, he would also have to have big risk. And markets could go against what he expects. He's not God.
Yet, we don't know how much time has elapsed. Did it happen a half hour ago or an hour ago? But we do know that when we put this blockade in place, it is within range of Iranian shore-to-ship missiles.
Yeah. And do you see this as, knowing what you just laid out there, does this feel escalatory to you, or is this just part of an expectation of what is happening when a blockade is in place?
I don't think it's escalatory, but the Iranian response also could be tit for tat, and the talks could still go forward. I think one of the complications in here for the Iranians is that if they're going to really resume attacks, and they would attack our friends in the Gulf, there's a 12,000-man Pakistani contingent in Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis have a mutual defense agreement with Pakistan. So this would be a consequential step if Iran were to fire drones and missiles into Saudi Arabia. Maybe they could attack Kuwait instead, and maybe they think they'd get away with it. But I think they're going to think twice before they re-escalate in this. I think they're very tough bargainers. I think they believe that if they can get our delegation over there, they can out-talk them. They can put details in, they can delay this thing, and they can continue to bring world opinion against the United States, and that the clock is ticking against the United States because of the price of gasoline, because of the election coming up, because of President Trump's apparent impatience to end this. I think he's right. So my guess is they're not going to escalate at this point, but that's what we should watch for.
I think the Iranians, I mean, it's insane that they're still this moderate. How are the Iranians this fucking moderate? All right, chat. Fuck me. All right. Holy shit. And this is, I think, like, the American people are at this position, but the
what's
class,
happening
the investor class isn't there, because we have a holy Toledo moment.
Inside Iran has very much to do with the current state of the United States economy and inflation, which is what voters regularly tell us in all kinds of polling they would like to see the president focused on, not necessarily the military conflict. With us now is CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. So what am I talking about there? When it comes to inflation, which is something that every poll tells us that Americans care about, how's the president doing?
Yeah, okay. Americans say inflation is the #1 issue facing them right now. And to quote the great Happy Gilmore, according to them, the price is wrong when it comes to the president of the United States. Just take a look at these net approval ratings when it comes to inflation. The president of the United States is hitting all-time record lows in all of these polls, and all of them. NBC came out yesterday, 36 points underwater. CBS came out a few weeks ago, 38 points underwater. Ipsos, Reuters, 43 points underwater. CNN came out earlier this month, 45 points underwater. And taking the cake is UMass Amherst, 47 points underwater across all of these polls. Trump is in his worst position ever on the issue that the American people say over and over and over again is their key #1 issue.
Was it always thus?
No, it wasn't this always thus, Mr. Berman. And this is what is so amazing to me. I mean, these shifts that we're just seeing, my goodness gracious. Voters on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election, remember, Trump got reelected to a second term, and Joe Biden got pushed to the curb in large part because Americans felt he couldn't handle inflation. Trump was more trusted than Kamala Harris on inflation by 7 points. Look at his net approval right now. You average all those polls on the first side of your screen, 42 points underwater. That is a nearly 50-point shift away from the president of the United States.
A nearly 50-point shift. That's bad. What's worse?
Yeah, what's worse? You think this is bad, a nearly 50-point shift. How about a 70-point shift? I'm laughing because you never see numbers like this. Look at this. Independents on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election versus Harris, Trump was favored by 10 points. Down he goes. Down he goes. He's down to 60 points underwater on inflation. That is a 70-point shift in a little bit less than 2 years' worth of time. John Berman and I are big baseball fans. And I will tell you, I'm going to go to Trump's home borough in Queens because, to be honest, it's the only comparison I can think of. Donald Trump is in worse shape on inflation right now.
I told you guys this earlier last week, I think, which is the Democrats are going to win a landslide. And so we need as many socialists to be the Democratic nominees as possible because they're all going to win. Like if they're in any kind of seat that they could possibly win, they're all going to win. And many of you people get mad at me because I say this. And that's because I'm sorry, this is what reality is. People are going to vote against Trump, which means they're going to vote for the Democrat. So as many socialists as we can being nominated as Democrats is going to win. Now, we missed the opportunity. I'll be honest with you, chat. It's pathetic. Like, honestly, we didn't run enough people. Now, I'm going to be bringing on a whole bunch of socialists. We're going to bring on Claire. We're going to bring on Chris. If they win their primaries, they're going to win the generals, obviously. Those are the two best districts in the country for the left. We better win. Abdul, if he wins the nomination, he'll win the general. Okay? If Oliver Larkin wins, he'll win the general. So whoever the Democrat is going to win. So if they're a socialist, they're going to win. So we need as many socialists nominated. Doesn't mean they're going to win every race in every district. It just means any district where it's plausible a Democrat could ever win, the Democrat's going to fucking win. Okay? That's the reality. And why do I know that? Well, it's because the double hater index is the only thing you need to watch. There's a group of people that hate the Democrats and they hate the Republicans. They're called double haters. I'm one of them. You can tell who's going to win based on who the double haters say they're voting for. In 2016, it was Trump. In 2020, it was Biden. 2024 was Trump. And right now, the double haters despise the Republicans. They dislike the Democrats, but they despise the Republicans. So the Democrats are going to win a landslide. But the thing about their win is it is based on their antipathy toward the White House. So that is the only like if you want the ultimate cheat code for which side is doing better, it's called the double hater index. In fact, I should write a fucking thing on this. It's the secret. It'll tell you who's going to win. Ready to ditch the two-party system? Okay, Union Poppy, calm down. You don't need to spam. You put the same message 3 times. Here's my general feeling about PSL. I am not somebody who attacks socialist projects, but if I don't think they're going to win and they're not viable, then I will just give them benign neglect. I'm not going to say that they're bad because they're not. It's just I don't see them like turning the corner yet. But the moment I feel like that path is open to us, I'll jump in with both feet. I'm just being honest, and I want that to be true. I want us to have our own party. I want a party that the left controls, that actually is viable electorally. And it's a chicken and the egg type situation, right? We've had a lot of like splinter left-wing parties in the history of America, but they haven't been positioned to win. And I think if you want more people to be left-wing, you must be in position to win. Because if you're not in position to win, then people don't give a shit. And that is the reality. So right now, that involves stealing the Democratic Party nomination. Honestly, and this is the truth, it's funny, the Democratic Party is so uncontrolled, we can steal their fucking nominations and get their voters. We should be doing that because it's a rat fuck. We are counter rat fucking them, and it's awesome. Every time a socialist gets elected as a Democrat, we just rat fuck the Democrats because the Democratic Party in DC hates the left. So we're stealing their shit. Double hater data. Luna, thank you. Can you link me a link that doesn't involve immediately getting interstitial blocks from reading it? Double haters, 55% Democratic, 24% Republican. That means the Democrats are going to win a goddamn landslide. Did you hear about the Michigan Democratic Convention yesterday? 7 of the 8 progressive endorsed candidates ended up winning. Who did they endorse for Senate? No one? Double haters give Democrats rare edge. Yeah, this is the secret. This is the secret data that you need to know. Could a socialist leftist capture the DNC if possible? The answer is the only way we'll take over the DNC is if we take over the White House. And then the president exercises their command and control and rips out all and installs loyalists into the DNC. And then goes around. So the only way that it'll work is if we have a leftist president who goes around and has their own Karl Rove type figure who viciously goes around and rips out all of the disloyal centrist Democrats at the state and local level. So we need to have both a leftist win and a leftist who has a mean streak. And that's what I worry about with AOC, that she doesn't have that mean streak. She doesn't have her own Karl Rove. We need a leftist Karl Rove. This is not a theory. What do you mean? We already have the base, the masses are already with the left on policy. What we have to do is align our political parties with our institutions, with where the masses are. And we have to do to clear out the middle, the bureaucratic regime. We have to control the top and the bottom. We already control the bottom, so we need to the bureaucratic control is not going to let us in until they are overruled from the top. So we have to go around the bureaucracy in order to clear it out. We're not going to work our way up through the bureaucracy. All their structures are focused on stopping that. The only way that we'll be able to break them is by having the top and the bottom, and then we can clean out the middle. And this is institutional theory. What do you mean not theory? This is fucking theory 101. What the fuck are you talking about? We need control for the top in order to implement the sentiment and the desires of the bottom, because the infrastructure and the institutions of the middle are self-referential and are a closed loop. And the only way to change that is from the top, meaning exercising executive power. So it is a top and bottom strategy. The reason why we have the top is because we control the bottom. It's not that AOC is like being appointed by the institutions and then she's flipping on them or something. No, she is the tribune of the masses. So she is able to gain her power by being a tribune of what the masses want and then overawe the gatekeepers that are trying to block her. And she would draw her power from the masses. So it's not really a top-down strategy. It's a bottom-up strategy. But I'm talking about institutionally, she would need to hold the White House in order to effectuate the reforms the DNC needs. It's what A.V. Lewis is doing with the NDP in Canada. Exactly. Now, the difference between the Democratic Party and other parties in like parliamentary systems is that you'll oftentimes have a parliamentary leader that is like a permanent candidate. Like the leader of the party is like a permanent candidate. In America, we don't have somebody like that. The closest thing we have is a presidential nominee. And then who the leader of the Democrats, and then whatever party is out of the White House doesn't have a determined leader, right? The DNC, like the DNC is really kind of like a continuation of the system that existed prior to like from the previous White House. So like when Barack Obama was in control, the DNC was Obama people. And then after Obama left, it continued to be Obama people. And those Obama people identified with who? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was the heir apparent of the Obama regime. And Bernie Sanders was the interloper, right? Similarly, Biden won the White House, so the DNC is all Biden people. And the heir apparent of the Biden people was Kamala Harris. So the DNC was oriented around Kamala Harris. Now there are other like strains. The DNC is not completely unified. There are progressives, there are Bernie-crats, there are all sorts of other people that like other candidates, but they're ideologically aligned with what Biden was, which is a neoliberal centrist. So if we want to break the DNC, we must break it from the top. That's the only way and the DNC will fight her, by the way. That's what they're going to be fighting her tooth and nail. In fact, they may even try to sabotage her in the general election, just as the Labor Party establishment did to Jeremy Corbyn. The reason why I'm talking about this is because Jeremy Corbyn won leadership of the Labor Party because of the support of the masses of the Labor Party, but he didn't clean out the institutions of the Labor Party, and they explicitly sabotaged him to defeat him so they could gain power back. So we need to have our eyes fucking open about the necessity of cleaning out the Democratic Party establishment if we were to win the primary. Now, the first step is to win the Democratic presidential primary. This is the top-bottom strategy, exactly. You are all bottoms, and we need a top. And once we have a top, then we can bump uglies and crush the middle. It's giving Philly grinders, so true. Okay, voters who dislike both parties are turning against Trump. This is hardly the first time a party controlling the White House has tried to make a midterm election comparative instead of serving as a referendum on the president. The current electorate has a sour, I hate everybody undertone that might be exploited to keep unhappy voters at home, if not grudgingly resign to GOP rule. Still, new data from CNN on so-called double haters, people who dislike both parties, shows that presidential referendum effect is hard to overcome. Whether it's because they hate Republicans a bit more than Democrats, more likely because they want change from the status quo, the double haters are leaning pretty strongly Democratic heading for November. And this is the most important point. This, ladies and gentlemen, will understand and help you predict the future. What do double haters think? Because since 2008, America has had a change electorate. What does that mean? That means that people vote for who they think represents change because they hate the status quo, because they're sour on the direction of the country. So voters are voting for change. Now, on the right, Donald Trump represented significant change. And you know what? He gave them a taste of right-wing change. And guess what? Right-wing reactionary change from the status quo fucking sucks and everybody hates it. So every single persuadable person looks at the status quo change that Donald Trump is delivering and they say, this fucking sucks. We hate it. It's not making things better. It's making things worse. So they're completely against him. Now, it will have to see if we could ever deliver left-wing change to this country. I believe that if we do, we will win. 1/4 of the public holds negative views of both parties, so-called double haters. Voters in that group prefer the Democrats in the upcoming midterm by 31 points. What were double haters in the 2024 presidential election? Oh, that's what I need. Double hater watch. Turns out the double haters went for Donald Trump. Donald Trump won because he won the double haters. Double haters in 2020. God, are we able to get like the 2020 presidential election? Search is so fucking annoying now. Why is it saying 2024? I said 2020. I said 2020. Why are you showing me results for 2020? 6. Voters who dislike both presidential candidates this year tend to be younger, more liberal than 2016. So in other words, Biden, thank you. This is such a good, thank you. This chart is amazing. Clinton, who was much less popular among all voters in 2016 than Biden is now, trailed Trump by 17 points with the double haters, while data showed Biden with a 29-point lead among those voters. So there you have it, chat. 2016, double haters liked Trump. 2020, double haters liked Biden. 2024, double haters went with Trump. They didn't like him, but they went with him. In 2026, double haters despise Trump. That is the secret way of analyzing how the election is going to go. Where are the people feeling that hate both sides? Double haters are stupid? No, we are double haters. There's two types of double haters, chat. There's two types of double haters. There's double haters that are swing voters, and there are double voters that are swing voters to the couch. So I'm a double hater, but I will come out and vote for a progressive left-winger, right? But if you give me a centrist, I will double hate to the couch. Then there are double haters that are just like, I want change, and they fluctuate between which party represents change, right? Those are true swing voters, okay? And I presume there's a double hater group on the right that is like, they hate both parties, but they'll come out and vote for a right-winger. But I feel like Donald Trump has those guys maxed, and they love Trump, so they're no longer double haters. Like the far right is getting served, so they don't hate Trump. So the double hater electorate is going to be overwhelmingly left-leaning people. And so this is what I've been trying to explain. It's like, you can literally look at this group, and this is going to tell you what's going to happen. CNN exit polls of prior elections have showed a persistent Trump GOP advantage among double haters. No. Double haters went with Trump in the elections he won. They went against him in the elections they lost. In 2020, Trump won double haters by 17%. Okay, this is not true. The category declined to a mere 3% of the electorate. This number is not true because I think the CNN exit polls basically basically fucked up in the sense of people voted for Biden and therefore they were removed. So like the number of people that were double haters was basically deleted due to the institutional like nature of an exit poll, right? So like their conception of what double haters are is crazy. In 2016, this group represented 18% of the electorate, and Trump won it by 17 points over Hillary Clinton. And then it was only 3% of the electorate. You think that's true? You think only 3% of the electorate dislike both parties? No, this is nonsense. In 2020, with double haters representing 11% of the electorate, Republicans won by the same 17-point margin they posted in 2016 and 2020. So this is an error about 2024. They're going off of an exit poll that's not accurate. We had other evidence, which is 2020. We show that we have this poll from July of 2020, and it showed, let's see here, what percentage of the electorate were double haters. 2020's haters feel more strongly about Trump than Biden. What percentage of the electorate is this? Did it say? Fuck, I can't find it. It doesn't say. I'm gonna lose it. In 2020, though, we were scared and Bernie had that heart attack and Republicans were getting crazier and crazier. Okay, no, I'm talking about the general election. Is double hater a subset of non-voters? No, it is the group of people who say that they hate both parties. It doesn't mean they're not gonna vote. There's two types of double haters. There are double haters who don't vote, in which case those are called non-voters, and then there are double haters who do vote. We're talking about the double haters who do vote. They didn't give a percentage here, which is very unuseful. It's very bad for what I'm trying to say and proving my point. 8% of people were in this category according to the exit polls. Depending on the voter survey, Trump either won them by 23 points or 14 points. It's part of a pattern of Trump winning voters who don't like him. Trump won double haters in 2016, but he lost them in 2020. And that won't be the case in 2026, it appears. Aside from big and unprecedented double hater advantage, Democrats are also benefiting from stronger enthusiasm. Always a big deal in non-presidential elections where turnout is significantly lower. So what we're seeing, chat, is everybody who identifies as a Democrat is fired up beyond belief. And a large percentage of the people who hate both parties are fired up against Trump. So we have a situation where whoever the Democrats are, they're going to win. So we need to make sure as many people as possible that are nominated Democrats are left-wingers. That's what's going to happen. Now, this is not because I like the Democratic Party. I'm not sheepdogging you or whatever the fuck. I'm trying to get left-wingers into power, right? I want people that are anti-Zionist win. And by the way, that's the thing that I look at. Is a person an anti-Zionist? Is the person that's running an anti-Zionist? And that's why I will support Graham Plattner. And people could be like, oh my God, you're supporting a guy who used to be a veteran. You ever hear these people talking out and frothing at the mouth about Alyssa Slotkin or Mallory McMorrow? You hear those people getting all lathered up about all the Zionist veterans? Do you ever hear them talking or making videos about any of those people? No, because they don't care about that. They're trying to block an anti-Zionist. They want an anti-Zionist to lose so they could say Americans are evil. They have no anti-Zionists in power. And I want Americans to suffer or whatever the fuck. And they think Graham Plattner is going to vote for programs that are going to help Americans. So they want to hurt Americans by electing even more fascistic politicians. And I want you to understand something, chat. That if fascistic Zionist politicians get elected, they're going to do more genocides. And the country that suffers the least is going to be Americans. And so whatever third worldist fantasy you're on, you need to get you need to get a good fucking grip. It's not true. It would be like voting for Hitler because you think Hitler is going to lose World War II. And while it ended up being true, it resulted in 100 million dead. I think that's fucking dumb. In his latest video, Cavernacle is like, we should give people like Plattner power. Anti-Zionists, anti-war, pro-Medicare for all, pro-peace with China. What the fuck are you talking about? What is this, some sort of moral grandstanding? What the hell are you? Is politics about policies or is it about looking left-wing? The fuck are you talking about? Like for PA, will there be super? Yes, there will.
May I have your attention? Thank you for all who casted your votes for an unbossed, sassy new member of Congress, y'all.
Let's turn to some good news yesterday in your neck of the woods, Emma.
Yeah, well, I mean, sadly, I don't have family there anymore, but I got to go back and visit my hometown. It's really not far. I just don't, what's the point? But whatever. She's from my hometown, Ana Lilia Mejia. It's not a big town, so it's pretty cool to see representing NJ11. She ended up running away with this special election, which is held in New Jersey on Thursdays because we talk quite frequently about the corrupt New York City or New York State Democratic Party. New Jersey has its own problems, although the ballot line change has been helpful to kind of insurgent candidates and has less of a the county and state party has less of a grip on which candidates have an advantage. But Ana Lilia Mejia, people will remember in a primary just a few months ago in New Jersey's 11th district, which is kind of a pretty wealthy suburban district outside of New York and North Jersey, ended up eking out a victory over the favorite, Tom Malinowski, who had been in Congress previously, because AIPAC wanted to make an example of Malinowski. Malinowski is very pro-Israel, but he had started to get a little squeamish and said, hey, maybe we should block some bombs to Israel, ha ha ha. AIPAC goes, no, no, no. We are going to spend against you, and they ended up kind of splitting the votes in a way that Ana Lilia Mejia's ground game, when she had such a small amount of fundraising, made the difference. And so on election day, she turned out a ton of people. She has previously worked for Bernie Sanders, endorsed by Bernie, AOC, Working Families Party, Elizabeth Warren, and this is the victory in the general in yesterday's special election, explained here on CNN.
Harris won that district, won New Jersey's 11th district. I love the ice cream in that district, I'll tell you. So many great places to go, you know. But bottom line
Wait, hold on. Okay, I'm sorry to be indulgent, but you talk about Worcester a lot, so I get to have, I can guarantee you what Harry's talking about there. He is talking about Holston's, which is an ice cream shop where they filmed the final scene of The Sopranos. When it goes to black, spoiler, we won't say what happens or what's implied that happens, but that is 10 minutes from where I grew up. It is a staple, so I'm pretty sure he's talking about Holston's.
It's funny because Harry Anton seems like a character from Sopranos when they flash back to like Tony's dad.
Exactly. Yeah, in the prequel.
Also very easy to picture him licking an ice cream cone. I don't know why. That is a very odd.
But bottom line is that Kamala Harris won that district by 9 points. But right now, we obviously see that Mejia is way out ahead. But that is not surprising me because it's part of a larger picture. Look, we are now talking about 7 special elections. And in every single one of them that we've had during the second Trump era, the Democratic candidates for the House have outrun the Kamala Harris baseline. Florida won last year. I remember you and I were together. 23 points, 16 points in Florida, 6. Virginia, 11, 17 points. Arizona 7, 17 points. Tennessee 7, 13 points. Georgia 14, 25 points. And while there are still votes to be counted here in New Jersey's 11th district, I will say at this point we're probably looking at an overperformance of at least 10 points when all the votes are said and done. So 7 special elections, and in every single one of them, the Democratic district for the House of Representatives has outperformed Kamala Harris's baseline by at least 10 points.
One of the things I'll say is like, I think she's going to end up well above 13 points.
Well, good news is Kamala Harris is getting the message and is definitely not going to North Carolina and soft launching a campaign or something like that. Oh, wait.
Doing videos under gas station prices.
Girl, you embarrass me enough.
I mean, the big news is that you have a Bernie style. I mean, she was literally one of the campaign field directors. Winning so decisively in this district. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a D+ district, but to win with this level of decisiveness, I think, you know, sends a message. And
notably, J Street endorsed her. So we're seeing a shift a little bit in J Street too, when they're seeing some of the polling on Israel within the Democratic Party. She is in favor of blocking weapon sales to Israel, and J Street still endorsed her, which that might be the first of its kind in that way, or at the very least, for a new candidate like this, it seems something like, you know, something to pay attention to here.
Yeah, it's interesting because if J Street is doing this, that means that there are, you know, so-called liberal Zionists who are, you know, allowing J Street or compelling J Street to get more aggressive, at least in the context of Israel's government. And so it's a big deal in that regard, because the further that push in that direction the liberal Zionist camp is, then the further those who are anti-Zionist can go in terms of like inhibiting Israel's weapons, Israel's apartheid state, et cetera, et cetera. So
they're defensive now, right? Because they have to separate themselves or distance themselves from AIPAC, saying, okay, we're not the same group. That's why they were created. Yeah. But when you have 40 out of 47 Democratic senators saying that we're going to block bulldozers to Israel.
Chat.
May I have your attention? May I have your attention, please? There has been a fire emergency reported in the building.
You have to now adjust your own political lobbying efforts. I don't trust any liberal Zionist PAC because I think if you're still committed to the ethno-state, you're not necessarily to be trusted at all. But I find it refreshing to see them kind of on their back foot, wanting to maintain Israel's credibility even in the narrowest sense by saying that they can even still get behind candidates that are that critical of Israel. So
right, this is not. I mean, I'm not celebrating it, but it is a data point to give us a sense of where we are, and and even like, you know, frankly, like Ezra Klein's whole sort of shift too. That is another data point.
Chat, obviously, you know, I'm gonna have to go soon. We're gathering.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention?
Again, I'm not. I've never been a huge fan, but it's a data point to measure where certain forces, where they have moved, and where other forces can move.
So if you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the stream by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 subs. So I spoke to.
Which.
And so it's a big deal in that regard, because the further that push in that direction the liberal Zionist camp is, then the further those who are anti-Zionist can go in terms of like inhibiting Israel's weapons, Israel's apartheid state, et cetera, et cetera. So
they're defensive now, right? Because they have to separate themselves or distance themselves from AIPAC, saying, okay, we're not the same group. That's why they were created. Yeah. But when you have 40 out of 47 Democratic senators saying that we're going to block bulldozers to Israel, you have to now adjust your own.
All right, so there's no emergency, chat. We're fine. There's no emergency.
May I have your
political lobbying efforts. I don't trust any liberal Zionist PAC because I think if you're still committed to the ethno-state, you're not necessarily to be trusted at all. But I find it refreshing to see them kind of on their back foot, wanting to make.
I already spoke to a member of the responders. There's no emergency. So we have to go through the whole rigmarole of fixing the alarm.
May I have your attention, please? There has been a fire emergency reported in the building.
Maintain Israel's credibility even in the narrowest sense by saying that they can even still get behind candidates that are that critical of Israel.
Actually, Chad, I'm about to die. Make sure you donate for my funeral. Okay, sorry. I shouldn't joke. Please consider supporting the stream. I might have to go, though, because, I can't talk. I can't talk. Well, okay, anyway. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the stream by subscribing at Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can hash that to your Twitch account. 1 free sub a month.
May I have your attention, please?
So
right, this is not. I mean, I'm not celebrating it, but it is a data point to give us a sense of where we are, and and even frankly, Ezra Klein's whole sort of shift too. That is another data point. Again, I'm not. I've never been a huge fan, but it's a data point to measure where certain forces, where they have moved, and where. Other forces can move in the future.
Ezra, for people that don't know, did a show, I guess, about one democratic state.
No, about the one state reality. I don't know if you got to one democratic state.
Okay. So just acknowledging that's literally just acknowledging that Israel illegally controls the West Bank and East Jerusalem and is Gaza and is an apartheid state, which we've known.
It is a big. I think it's extremely helpful, the framing of it being one state now.
I agree,
because then all of a sudden it's very difficult for if you have that understanding that it's one state now, it is very difficult to deny the apartheid. Right? Like, I mean, you can't hide by saying, well, it's not, it's sort of like 1.3 states or something like that. Because once you recognize there is one state right now, then you have to reckon with the apartheid and that exists.
It's just agonizing to see people come to the conclusions that every piece of reality should have led them to when it would have mattered.
That you could get in the New York books from Tony Judd in 2003.
Yeah, right. Like before Israel killed hundreds of thousands of people and ruined their lives and poisoned them with pollution. And I mean, anyway, but Matt sent this, Sam. Do you want to listen to a little bit of her victory speech?
Sure.
Thank you for all who casted your votes for an unbossed, sassy new member of Congress, y'all. In November, when I jumped into this race, the odds were stacked against us. But we did the impossible and we won. In 10 weeks after that tremendous primary victory, the daughter of a Dominican factory worker and a Colombian seamstress who grew up wondering what could I possibly be in
at the Montclair Art Museum. That's where I took the bus every day to go to school. That was where we all met up. Whatever. Cool. It's about me. I'm just tickled by it. There's not a lot of progressives that come out of that district too. It's just it's encouraging.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
Is that it turns out that this sort of thing can win in all sorts of places, whether it's New York City or Emma's former hometown, or even where Taylor Ramette won in Texas. It turns out maybe some of the conventional wisdom you see in Forbes magazine might be not right about what wins campaigns.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
I don't know if you guys know this. I had a debate with Vosh. I was saying what we need to do is pursue sewer socialism.
You solve it through sewer socialism. Focus on creating the best possible public services.
Zoran Mamdani is saying exactly what I said 6 years ago.
We know these leaders as the sewer socialists. It's time we bring that to New York City.
Regular people don't even believe that this type of politics is possible. And so you have to demonstrate to them that the government can, the state can suppress the capitalist class, can operate against their interests if it is in the hands of socialists. The biggest impediment to the left in America and the world is the understanding that we can do good things. All right, chat. I wanted to show you something because it's been 100 days. Mike was right. Zoran celebrates 100 days of sewer socialism. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but almost 5 years ago now, I had a debate with Vosh. Vosh was trying to yell at the left because we didn't want to support Destiny's efforts to support a neoliberal in Omaha mayor's race, which, of course, Destiny's candidate finished last out of 5 candidates. And Vosh and Destiny supported this candidate, 5th. Destiny's candidate finished last out of 5 candidates. And Vosh went on his stream and said that I was the biggest piece of shit, and I did, of all time, because I wasn't supporting Destiny's neoliberal candidate. And the editors had played Vosh insulting me here. Honestly, I wish he had. It would be very funny. Have to vote for neoliberals in Democratic primaries because at least they have a strategy of governing, right? Neoliberal socialists don't know how to govern. They don't have any plan for governing cities. Wait, these are all quotes. Editor, why didn't you put them in? This is literally what happened. And when I heard that, I thought this is maybe the dumbest piece of shit I've ever seen. Who the fuck likes this guy? Why the fuck would you say something that stupid? Didn't Vosh shift on this a year ago? I don't know. Did he bend his fucking knee? Did he go to his audience and say, damn, I got told all this 5 years ago by Mike from PA. I'm a dumb piece of shit. Who fucking cares? Vosh. No, it's funny because I want you to know, chat, that if you go and look, and I'm sorry for bringing this up, but is it important? Is that all of Vosh, people ask me, Mike, why don't you like Vosh? If you go and look at 2021 of my channel, you will see that I got micro hurt. I mean, it basically didn't matter that much, but I think it was around March. I want to say it was it was March 9th or so, where I had that's where I fought with Vosh, I want to say. And I lost some small amount of following. I want to say that. Some small amount of following because I stood up to him and told him he's dumb as we have to, and again, losing 50 Vosh followers. I mean, I don't think anybody is crying about that, right? But it was burned in my memory because I was saying what we need to do is pursue sewer socialism.
How do you solve it? Come on. How do you solve it? You solve it through sewer socialism. This is another thing you don't know what it is, probably. Just answer. How do you solve it? Sewer socialism. So you focus on creating the best possible public services. You fund education, and you provide an opportunity for people to maximize their potentialities. Can't control everything by a top-down privatization, TIF-based model.
And I gave him the example of how Chattanooga, Tennessee had developed their own state-owned, city-owned internet. And they had the best internet in the country because it was owned by the city. It wasn't owned by Comcast. It wasn't owned by the, and I gave him all these examples of if you have a socialist in power, they'll focus on making left-wing state-owned enterprises that will raise the standard of living of cities. That's the best way for leftists to run their city. And then I eventually asked him, and he tried to debate with me. He tried to talk about brain drain. He doesn't even know what it means. And I said, if you want to counter brain drain, you have to have high quality city services and the city has to be a place where people want to live, that will foment people coming into the city. And he was like, no, we need to do tax breaks on businesses. And this is where people will often, I asked him, do you know what a TIF is? Tax increment financing is a strategy where neoliberals will give massive tax breaks to major corporations in order to give them, to induce them to build in a city, where basically they don't have to pay any taxes on the increased value of the investment. Does that make sense? So let's say I have a piece of land, I get a TIF, and I build a huge factory on it, and or I build a huge apartment building on it, and that factory and apartment building is using all sorts of government services. I don't have to pay any taxes because I got a TIF. In fact, AOC had a big fight with someone. You guys remember? Amazon was trying to get a big TIF in New York City, and AOC fought against the TIF. This is a very important point that I want to show you guys. TIF is the concept of the financing. TID is the district that neolibs want to create. Yeah, exactly. Futurosaurus Rex. And is Vosh relevant? Yes. I'm sorry. He's relevant because he's on YouTube and he makes videos. He makes like anti-Trump slop videos. Him and Brian Tyler Cohen and Vosh they still try to like posture themselves as progressive, right? Oh, here it is. AOC vindicated again after Amazon HQ2 added no jobs in Virginia last year. The Amazon mega facility has consistently failed. How will we overcome superdelegates? Okay, you've been asking me this when I can't talk. All right, let me just explain to you the superdelegates that were reformed after 2016, so they cannot vote in the first delegate call. So superdelegates are not relevant for picking the nominee. If you get the majority of pledged delegates, they're not counted. Furthermore, not all superdelegates are going to coalesce around one candidate. So it's not actually that big of a fucking deal. Any other questions? You can Google superdelegate fix and find out that, it's not actually that relevant. Also, if there's a clear front runner and the superdelegates all vote against them, it'll cause a major party crisis and would likely destroy the Democratic Party, which, by the way, would be good because the centrists have no fucking support. And if they had to openly fucking rat fuck the progressive candidate, it would cause such a rupture that it would destroy the Democratic Party, which would enable what? The creation of a progressive party in their place. So I personally would want to play chicken with the conservative Dems all the way into a car crash because we would emerge. We are better able to emerge and organically survive such a situation. Mike, I looked at that TIF thing and we have a warehouse in Fall River, Massachusetts. Yes, Amazon has a 15-year tax increment financing agreement with Fulfillment Center in Fall River, Massachusetts. That's why I tried to explain to him what TIFs were. Because, by the way, the debate that I'm talking about...
May I have your attention, please?
To meet job creation expectations, reported a Virginia-based business publication. Although Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took criticism from some mainstream media pundits after she helped rally public opinion against the construction of Amazon HQ2 in Long Island City, new data revealed this week has seemingly vindicated her skepticism of the project. Virginia Business reported on Thursday that a filing submitted to the Virginia Economic Development Partnership this week showed that Amazon created no jobs in HQ2 in Arlington County last year and thus will not seek a state payment under the state's workforce grant incentives. In 2018, Ocasio-Cortez joined with local activists to oppose the construction of HQ2 in Long Island City, and they pointed to the billions of dollars in tax incentives offered by New York City and New York State as an example of wasteful corporate welfare being given to one of the world's richest companies. That's what a TIF is, corporate welfare. And I'm bringing this up because I want you to understand that I know what I'm talking about. And there's a reason why people viciously go after me off of vibes, because they're stupid and they don't know anything. And so there is finally a politician that is approaching politics in the exact way that I want it to be done. And his name is Zohran Mamdani. And this is not a hypothetical. You could go back and look. I was saying this 6-7 years ago. It's not a debate. There's no question. I have often thought of the Margaret Thatcher's quotes. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. If anything, my friends, it seems that you will eventually need a socialist to clean up the mess. What's next? 100 days down? Sewer socialism. This is exactly what I said. Exactly. And how is he doing it? It's investing in public goods like sanitation, transportation, water systems to improve the quality of life, city life for all. If you go back and look at that debate I had with Vosh, this is exactly what I said, word for word. On Sunday evening, Zoran announced new initiatives to bring the sewer socialists of New York the action plan. First city-owned grocery store is coming in East Harlem. That's exactly what I talked about. State-owned enterprise. Chattanooga, they had ISPs. Full citywide trash containerization by the end of 2031. Actually cleaning up the city so it doesn't stink and have rats everywhere. 20% faster buses along 45 priority corridors. Increased fully accessible bus stops. 100K new rapid bus routes for 100,000 New Yorkers.
A lot of this is thought of as if it's just about tactics, but I think it's also about substance. Like, I think just as important for us to deliver universal childcare is our ability to actually take down sidewalk sheds, because it shows that we can do something.
The city says it has filled over 100,000 potholes.
That's sewer socialism. If you can't solve the smallest task in someone's life, why would they ever trust you to solve the biggest one? I want New Yorkers to feel that politics means something, that it can do something. I want them to know democracy is more than just an ideal or a value. And I want them to know their role in delivering those things.
Today, Mayor Zoran Mamdani securing almost $2 million for hundreds of fast food and retail workers.
We are not going to take violations of these laws lightly.
Victory for tenants living in one South Bronx building.
We're not going to rest till this landlord is held accountable.
Crashes and traffic injuries are down.
New York City had its safest January on record.
We cannot burden ourselves with the question of what this means beyond the city, and that's actually quite a liberating thing.
The city is planning to roll out a free child care plan for 2-year-olds.
It's a $50 million investment in park.
Getting rid of those junk fees in New York City.
It's a new economy.
I was elected as a democratic socialist, and I will govern as a democratic socialist.
This is the quote that explains who Vosh's is.
Answer. Damn, dude. Looks like neoliberalism beats socialism yet again. It hurts to see. I mean, this is like the fall of the Soviet Union yet again. But
the problem of populations leaving, of educated populations leaving.
Yeah, educated populations leaving.
How do you solve that problem? So
I'm asking
your solution is.
I'm asking you. Wait, I'm asking you. You know what my solution would be.
I already answered the question.
You're
done an incredible thing. And somehow we have more work to do.
One of the best things that Zoran brings is that he keeps up the informational warfare. He didn't just campaign and then go to sleep. He's keeping up the informational warfare because it's not just about filling the potholes. It's letting people know that you are filling the potholes. It is making people feel like they have to be part of the solution instead of just a passive consumer. It's about changing their consciousness, where we have solidarity with one another, where we participate with one another. This is what sewer socialism is.
Good evening, my fellow New Yorkers. What a privilege it is to look out onto a room full of friends old and new. 102 days ago, we stood together at the dawn of a new era. The world watched, wondering if change could really come. Across the 5 boroughs, New Yorkers waited to see if a city hall powered by the people could truly govern for the people. There were cynics then, just as there are cynics now. Some said that once the hard work began, we would forget the movement of working people that rewrote what was possible in the city. Far more wanted to believe, but didn't know how. Because for too long, City Hall had not just failed to meet expectations, it had lowered them. Yet as I said on that freezing January afternoon to more than 8.5 million New Yorkers, we will make no apology for what we believe. I was elected as a democratic socialist, and I will govern as a democratic socialist.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why supporting Zoran Mamdani was correct. That's why when somebody like Cinemarxism was trashing him and the weeks coming up to the primary election against Andrew Cuomo, when he was trying to find ways of saying that he was actually a Zionist or pro-Israel or whatever, when he was trying to lower the energy and lower the effort and lower the attention and go counter to the narrative. That's why people like Cinemarxism are so damaging to our movement. And that's why you can't support them in any way. Because imagine a world where Cuomo had won, right? Imagine a world where Zoran Mamdani had been humiliated, he had been defeated. What would the lesson that would be learned learned by the country that pro-Palestinian politics are unviable, that you have to bend the knee to Israel, that you have to shut down and shut up everybody who's pro. That's the lesson that would have been learned in the halls of power. But now they're running scared. Now even J Street is saying we don't want to send anybody to Israel. Our politics are winning because we are winning, because we are coming together and we are delivering victory after victory after victory. So it's perfectly fine to criticize Zoran. Perfectly fine to say, hey, Zoran, I think you should do X. I think you should do Y. I think this is helpful. I think this is unhelpful. To try to destroy the project, to slander the man who's standing up for socialism. That is why these type of people cannot be rehabilitated, right? You cannot rehabilitate somebody like Cinna Marxist. The guy is just irredeemable and he's damaging wrecker in the movement. And so there's an old phrase in organizing called the tyranny of the annoying, which is when you and I get together in an organizing opportunity and we say, we're going to walk this picket line. We're going to knock these doors. We're going to make these phone calls. We're going to provide this mutual aid. And somebody comes into an organizing opportunity and tries to disrupt it, to soapbox their own bullshit, which is not what we came together to perform. It is very important to understand that, like, when we look at a successful politics that is actually succeeding, it is what I recommend. And it's why we can't really necessarily have a space for grifters like Vosh unless they come and do their mea culpas and they admit, I mean, he's a dangerous predator, so I kind of want to keep him away anyway. But the point is, like, the people that are attacking these type of movements, they really can't be tolerated. I'm sorry, guys, they can't.
There has been a fire.
They have to be expelled and banned because they are distracting. They are ruining the vibe. There you go. Like, comment, subscribe. Go and post it in places you might find it provocative. And they are ruining our ability to carry forward with the mutual aid and solidarity that we came to perform. So one of the lessons of being a professional organizer is recognizing when there is somebody who, contrary to performing any task. I've been organizing, and tyranny of the annoying is so real, though. And when you get rid of them, they try to ruin you and claim you are censoring them or you are selling out. Yeah. It's step one is you have to be able to recognize, listen, all of us have a little bit of a soapbox in us. I have to constantly count. Whenever I get into a room full of socialists, I want to soapbox. I want to have conversations with like-minded people. It's totally normal. But there's time and a place for that, which is the after party. You go to a bar, and you have your conversation. But when you're in an organizing space to do a thing, that's not the time to waste time soapboxing. You're supposed to carry out the tasks that you all came together to do.
We began with a promise: universal child care. And by day 8, we delivered it. We will begin with 2,000 children this fall, 12,000 next year, and cover every single 2-year-old by the end of 4 years. Tens of thousands of families will no longer have to choose between having a child and affording to live in our city. That is the change government can deliver. When young parents save more than $20,000 per year, per child, that is the change.
Here we have Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani is saying exactly what I said 6 years ago. I mean, like, look at this.
Today we know these leaders as the sewer socialists. But for years, Milwaukeeans knew them simply as leaders who delivered. It's time we bring that to New York City. There is no problem too big.
And here you go, chat. You go to my channel, and 5 years ago, sewer socialism, 5 years ago. So now you have a politician who's literally saying the shit that I said 5 years ago. Like, you can literally see me talking about exactly this type of governance. And here we have it. I'm a little bit hot, chat, because I'm wearing my Francesca Hong sweater. I don't know if you guys saw this, but on Friday, Francesca sent me a thank you note. And I wanted to read it to you guys. If you missed it on Friday, let me read it to you today. It's just, she said, "Hey, Mike, thank you for jumpstarting our movement and giving a shit about Wisconsin. That's the sewer socialist movement I'm talking about right now. Please know that being on your stream not only gave me a boost of confidence and hella donation, but courage too. Movements and organizing power is about connecting with people and building community. You gave me an opportunity to connect with you and your community, and that means a lot. Grateful for your ongoing support, and please never stop holding me accountable. You're a good dude, and we're gonna win this. Never forget, we make better possible." So the front runner for Wisconsin governor, Francesca Hong, launched her campaign on this stream. And you guy, you gal, you are building that future. And there's a reason why so many people are attacking Hasan, because they see if we together get involved, we could change the country and therefore the world. And right now on the screen is one of the people that we have in power. You guys saw Zohran Mamdani on Hasan's stream when he had 5% in the poll. Now he has guaranteed universal child care that's going to save parents $20,000 per year in New York City. So it is your support that makes that possible. And obviously, you know, listen, we are just all part of a small movement, and we've got a lot of enemies, and we've got a lot of people that are slandering us and trashing us. And you guys, you gals, you non-binary pals, you make it happen. Let's get back to the real shit.
We are going after the bad landlords who violate our laws and mistreat their tenants. Since January 1st, we have won more than $34 million in settlements, judgments, and repairs for tenants. Delivered improvements to 6,070 apartments so far and issued 195,829 violations. New York City will no longer tolerate exploitation as a business model.
And this is why the landlord class, this is why the establishment is so scared, because when you have somebody who's willing to use the state against the capitalist class, that is what they're afraid of. And what Zohran Mamdani is showing, and this is what a lot of socialists don't understand, and this is where I disagree with a lot of my fellow comrades, is regular people don't even believe that this type of politics is possible. And so you have to demonstrate to them that the government can, the state can suppress the capitalist class, can operate against their interests if it is in the hands of socialists. Have we completely revolutionized the means of production across the entire country based on the election of one man? No. But it's about showing people that goodness and good things and power is possible. The biggest impediment to the left in America and the world is the understanding that we can do good things.
And I know there are many New Yorkers who care about the work of the Rent Guidelines Board. I am one of them. I am proud of the 6 new members I appointed to that independent board, and I look forward to the decision they will come to in just a few short months.
That's going to be his second campaign promise met, chat. The first was free childcare. Promise made, promise kept. The second promise was freezing the rent. He's appointed 5 leftists to the Rent Guidelines Board. The rent will be frozen. The rent will be frozen. And, ladies and gentlemen, he's working on city-owned grocery stores. The first one will open very soon. And one of the things that is really like, I just want to say that this community and our friends, we are literally changing the world. I don't like to get too grandiose, but I really do believe that we are changing the world. Ilhan Omar was on Hasan's stream. One of the front runners for the Michigan Senate race was on Hasan's stream. Summer Lee, Rashida Tlaib, Zohran Mamdani. Front runner right now for Wisconsin governor's race was on my stream. Oliver Larkin, the first nationally endorsed DSA candidate. We are literally creating a politics that did not exist in this country. Claire is going to come out. Claire Val, we're going to have multiple people, nationally DSA endorsed candidates on this stream. Claire is going to come on. Like, we are literally changing the world. Anti-Zionism is becoming the position of the Democratic Party mainstream. I was talking about the Palestinian conflict 6 years ago on this channel. That was unheard of. That possibility seemed remote, impossible. We are literally making the impossible possible. And it's not me, and it's not Hasan, and it's not you, but us as a collective. We are building these infrastructure. We're building this movement online. All right, let's get back to us winning.
I have thought often of the Margaret Thatcher quote. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. If anything, my friends, it seems that you eventually need a socialist to clean up the mess. I know there are many who use socialist as a dirty word, something to be ashamed of. They can try all they want, but we will not be ashamed of using government to fight for the many, not simply the few. We will not be ashamed of adding more heat pumps to NYCHA buildings in the Rockaways, or building more supportive housing in Harlem, or standing steadfast alongside our trans neighbors. We will not be ashamed of investing in youth mental health clinics, or working to close Rikers, or fighting for immigrants targeted by ICE. To any New Yorker, whether you're under attack from the federal government's cruelty or suffocating under the affordability crisis, we will stand beside you.
There's an old saying from Benjamin Franklin that I always remember, which is, if you want someone to do something big for you, have them do something small for you first. And there's a corollary. If you want people to believe that what you're going to do something big for them, you have to do something small for them first. It's about building that credibility. It's about showing people and connecting with the efficacy of class-conscious politics with a real material change. And when you establish that pattern, then you will have greater credibility, greater trust, and greater collectivization of our political reality.
We are hardly the first socialists to embrace good governance. 110 years ago, the city of Milwaukee elected a mayor named Daniel Webster Hone. Hone made no apologies for being a socialist. Mayor Hone knew then what we know now. The worth of an ideology can only be judged by its delivery. Under Mayor Hone, Milwaukee purged corruption and graft, built the first municipally sponsored public housing development in the nation, and transformed the city's sewage disposal system. He believed, just as we do, that to deliver this great society, we should tax the rich.
Spontaneous chance of tax the rich.
Today we know these leaders as the sewer socialists. But for years, Milwaukeeans knew them simply as leaders who delivered. It's time we bring that to New York City. How can we promise to transform our city if we can't pave your street? And that's why since January 1st, New York City has filled more than 102,000 potholes, including 22,800 in just 3 days alone. By the end of this fiscal year, the Department of Transportation will repave 1,150 lane miles of our streets, enough to stretch from New York City to Miami. Dale. This is pothole politics, our 2026 answer to sewer socialism. On day 6, when we paved the bump at the base of the Williamsburg Bridge, that was pothole politics. On day 65, when we rolled out our plan to take down thousands of feet of scaffolding that have darkened city streets for years, that was pothole politics. On day 90, when we announced more than $100 million to replace and modernize more than 6,700 catch basins, that too was pothole politics. So let us look forward to the next promises we will keep. This evening, I am proud to make 3 transformative announcements. First, we're going to make it easier for New Yorkers to put food on the table. During our campaign, we promised New Yorkers that we would create a network of 5 city-owned grocery stores, 1 in each borough. Today, we make good on that promise. I am proud to announce that we will open every single one of these stores by the end of our first term. And the first one will open next year. Stores where prices are fair, where workers are treated with dignity, and where New Yorkers can actually afford to shop. At our stores, eggs will be cheaper. Bread will be cheaper. Grocery shopping will no longer be an unsolvable equation. One of those stores will be at La Marqueta in El Barrio. The same market that Fierro LaGuardia opened in 1936. So working people then could save money on fruits and vegetables. We will continue his legacy. Now, some will insist that city-owned businesses do not work, that government cannot keep up with corporations. My answer to them is simple. I look forward to the competition. May the most affordable grocery store win.
Of course it works. Of course it works. Duh. Of course it works. And the thing is, it's also going to pay farmers more money. You cut out more middlemen, that equals lower prices for you.
Think of the change that government can deliver. I think, too, of the leadership of Mayor Bernie Sanders of Burlington, Vermont.
One of my most iconic conversations we had on my stream, an underwatched video on my old YouTube, is a video I made about Bernie Sanders as mayor of Burlington. And the reason why I supported Bernie Sanders and I thought he was a good leader for the socialist movement is he actually demonstrated how he would govern. And he was by far and away the best mayor in the country when he was mayor. And just like Zoran Mamdani is far and away the best mayor in the country as mayor, when you get a real dyed-in-the-wool socialist in state government or city government. They deliver.
I have been on platforms with hundreds and hundreds of mayors and all kinds of public officials. This is the first time I was ever introduced by someone who talked proudly about democratic socialism, and it feels great. And I want to tell all of you and the mayor that what you guys are doing here in New York City is important not only to the people here. What you are doing and what the mayor is doing is providing hope and inspiration not only to people all across our country, but honestly, all across the world. Today's announcement by the mayor of a new city-run grocery stores is just another example of government working for the people.
And by the way, the city-run grocery stores, I would do them even more leftistly than Zoran is doing it, right? I would do it even more leftistly than Zoran. But so f***ing what? So f***ing what? It is a demonstration of actual left-wing politics.
That one of the reasons that working class people die at a significantly younger age than the elderly has to do with diet. Working people, low-income people cannot afford the decent quality food that their kids and the whole family need. And the result of that is all across this country, we have tens of millions of people dealing with obesity, and we have a crisis, an epidemic in diabetes. So when we talk about making decent quality food affordable to all people, it's not only the right thing to do. In the end of the day, it's going to save money.
I want rich people to be forced to send their kids to the exact same childcare as your poor kids. I want rich people to be forced to send their kids to the exact same schools as the poor kids. Because if that happens, they'll actually make sure the schools don't suck shit. And there is a country that did that. In Finland, they banned private schools. You cannot charge tuition for a school in Finland. And guess what? They have the #1 school system in the world. Imagine that.
Bernie's 8 years as mayor were defined by a tireless commitment to improving his city. He fixed a crumbling downtown. He delivered city services equally, not just to the wealthier areas. And he used a budget surplus to repair streets. One day, Bernie, you'll have to tell me what a budget surplus actually feels like. The sewer socialists used government to build a better Milwaukee. Bernie Sanders used government to build a better Burlington. We will use government to build a better New York City.
And that's exactly what I said 5 years ago. I want you guys to understand something. That you are seeing where our country will go years from now, right now here on this stream. And I want to give you good news. Our politics, it's growing. It's growing right now as we speak. Hasan, myself, the real left in this country are growing in power. And it's not because we were willing to give up any of our positions. No, it's because people are coming in our direction.
Too long, as New Yorkers have asked these questions, City Hall has not raised its hand to help. The people of our city have been left to fend for themselves. We hold a mighty responsibility, not just to govern with honesty and integrity, not just to deliver relentless improvement. We have the responsibility of proving that government is worthy of the people it serves.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's 100 days of sewer socialism. Bosch defeated. God, okay, stop beeping right now. Holy shit. It just ended. Holy fucking hell. Okay, chat. Well, there you have it. There you have it. And I think one of the things that's funny is a lot of people that like Vosh will be like, oh, Vosh agrees with you on 97% of the Vosh agrees with you on your motherfucker. He's just following the algorithm. He doesn't know. So I was telling you where the leftist movement was going to go, and I was accurate and I was substantive years in advance. And this dumb fuck was trying to trash and insult me with Destiny. And now you're like, well, he agrees with you now. This is infighting. Infighting what? The algorithm, the guy who worships the fucking algorithm and is trailing behind a popular politician? Or the guy who made that politics possible as part of a larger group of people? But there was a reason why I was sponsored by Jacobin, right? There's a reason why I have the relationships I do with Hasan and Majority Report. Which, by the way, Sam Cedar will be our next guest on the Reaction Podcast. And, obviously, if it was just a disagreement, why the fuck is this podcast with 4 reviews popping up higher on Google? I have 10,000 subscribers on our podcast. Why is our podcast, which is clearly way more active and popular, below this one? What the fuck? What the fuck? They pay for ads? Really? It doesn't say it's an ad. SEO takes time. Okay, well, according to Google, we have 8,600 followers, right? But if we click on it, we actually have 9,500. So it's 900 subs behind where we actually are. And yesterday we released our newest episode on Destiny. Now this chat, we have 30 minutes available on the YouTube.
It's a new to this.
This is a premium episode. A premium episode. If Hasan really believed what he was saying, there would be more allegations. I rest my case. Yeah. So go check out our newest episode. Subscribe to the Patreon. Now we're going to continue to release. We're going to continue to release more episodes of the Reaction Podcast absolutely free. But we have an editor. So please support our stream by subscribing to the Patreon. This is also a way to help the stream grow. Because if I have a podcast, you know, a lot of people are still a little bit squirrely on Twitch, right? They're just starting to learn about Twitch with Hasan. And so having a podcast gives me the opportunity to get into more spaces and help grow the YouTube, etc. So who is the victim for Sam Cedar? We're probably going to do Tim Pool because it's the funniest. And there's a lot of funny clips. You already got me to subscribe to the Patreon with the Destiny bait? Hell yeah. I think our Sam Cedar episode will be at least the main episode will be free, but we might have a fun half. Sorry to bring up this lowlife, but never forget Vosh was battling with Destiny during the Leftovers disbanding to replace Hasan as Ethan co-host. He's just trying to find relevance at all costs. Yes, that's exactly right. And he was happy to trash me and slander me for years on sewer socialism. They tried to make that idea a joke to slander me. Think about that. Now that the most successful socialist in American history after Bernie Sanders says the thing that motivated him was sewer socialism, they would have pretend like they're on his side. Think about that. Think about that. And this pussy won't ever talk about this. He'll never, and because he's not somebody that's actually worth listening to. If he was somebody worth listening to, he would say, hey man, I was completely wrong. I was a piece of shit. I was a piece of shit to Hasan. I was a piece of shit to Mike. I was completely wrong. But this guy just wants to float along and be like, oh yeah, no, I like Hasan. He makes videos defending Hasan. Never acknowledged. Never supported. And because the guy is not someone that, honest to God, is got good intent. And it is what it is. He sees us as competition that he's trying to destroy. He was calling anti-Zionists anti-Semites for the longest time, too. That surprises me, but what do you know? He also went after Hasan because he was against the Ansar Allah blockade and terror jacketed him. Yeah, him and Dylan Burns were like, freedom of the seas, freedom of the seas. I'm so mad I'm going to have him on my recommended. Where's freedom of the seas? He kept saying that, like, the Houthis are terrorists because they disrupted our freedom of the seas. I can't find it now. White leftist men are seemingly allergic to accountability and apologizing. Here's what you need to understand. Stop doing that. You're doing fascist propaganda. I know you're not trying to, and I get it. As a person who takes personal accountability very seriously, like when I make mistakes, I immediately try to own up to them and fix them and fully apologize because that's just what I think the way you should be. You know? I don't hold on. I don't like hide things where I'm wrong and then like pretend I'm not wrong. I immediately and fully take it head on because that's the way I feel it should be done. But stop spreading the idea that leftists are X, Y, and Z bad thing. That is propaganda. You're falling for propaganda. And I know we all do it. I've even done it. Hasan does it. But don't do that shit. That's propaganda. It's an attempt to create like an annoying image of a leftist in your brain. It is a hegemonic stratagem to associate the left with being annoying or being X, Y, and Z bad trait. Don't do that. Just say white men. If you want to talk about white men, just talk about white men. That includes white male leftists too. Okay? Don't include leftists or left-winger with bad shit like that. That has nothing to do with left-wing politics. It doesn't. Left-wing politics is not anti-apology or anti-accountability. So don't associate those traits with left-wing politics. You're doing the propaganda for the right by inadvertently, but you are. And I want people, you know, obviously this is an impossible ask. People are going to keep doing it, but I'm just asking you to think about, like, hey, does left-wing politics advocate against holding people accountable? No? Okay, so why am I saying white leftist, blah, 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 do X, Y, and Z thing? That's not, you're helping create a propaganda environment. And this isn't to defend white leftist men. I'm saying I'm defending leftism from the association with guys like that. Guys like that are not leftist. They're pieces of shit. Okay? Like, so describe them as people who do not take accountability are pieces of shit. They're not leftists who don't take accountability. They are. Now, it's not to say pieces of shit are not described or in leftist spaces. They are, but it isn't the leftism that's making them that. So you don't need to say that. You can say leftist spaces need to police themselves, and I would agree with that, but you shouldn't say leftist X, bad thing. You're doing the right wing's work for them. Do you ever hear right wingers say that? Do you ever hear them say white right-wing men are bad trait? Have you ever heard a conservative say that? Have you ever seen a right-winger go, right-wing men, blah, right-wing women, blah, bad thing? Have you ever heard them say that? So ask yourself why that is. Why is the right wing never associated with some annoying thing right-wing guy did, but all annoying shit is being associated with left-wingers? It makes no fucking sense. Don't do that shit. Is it fair to criticize groups like PSL that have had harassment cover-up scandals? But that's not left. The left has had, you know, it's not, the left isn't doing it. It's an organization that you're criticizing. This organization failed to live up to their leftist values. That's different than leftists do bad thing. I hate that shit, and I don't think we should do it ever. I think it is helping the right. All right, let's keep going. So mad about the that blared by shit. We've got a new John Oliver chat. You guys want to check that out? Or are we still looking for, we want to get more coverage of the Iran war? Racism has always undermined leftist movements. That is a completely correct. That's completely correct. Racism is in opposition to leftism. Racial discrimination and racial bigotry has always been a direct goal. Eradicating that has always been a direct goal of leftism. It was communists in the Deep South that were organizing against Jim Crow first, before any other group. Their vice presidential nominee in the 30s was a black man. So that's reality.
I was just watching Kyle Kalinske talk about Hasan. I think it was Kyle Kalinske. Oh shit, am I being racist?
We can do better.
Okay, yeah, it was him. No shade, I do be getting them mixed up sometimes. And he said something that I wanted to speak on. Do Ezra Klein and Kyle Kalinske look alike? Okay, yeah, they're from the same template. No shade to Kyle. I don't fucks with Ezra Klein. Low key, the shit he did with Ta-Nehisi, just I'm off him forever until further notice. It's like the same way, you know, I look like I work at GameStop. There's a progressive white guy aesthetic formula. Anyway, Kyle was talking about the alpha in the room, Hasan, and his recent tour. It's so funny. I said this on, I think, Threads the other day. Right after the election, everybody and their mama literally got on Twitter and said,
the liberals need a leftist Joe Rogan.
And most of us kind of said that sounds dumb. But also, we already have a leftist Joe Rogan. It's Hasan. It just doesn't work the same because, you know, the right wing, yada, things I'm going to get to in a second. It just doesn't work the same. You know.
Okay, chat. So, by the way, speaking of Joe Rogan, we just did a Joe Rogan. We recorded a Joe Rogan episode yesterday for the Reaction Podcast. So that's going to be coming up this week. This Saturday, we're going to be releasing the Joe Rogan podcast. And I specifically talk about the history of his political beliefs. And let me tell you, Joe Rogan, I think what we're really, when people say left-wing Joe Rogan, I don't know what the fuck they mean, right? Like, are they saying a popular podcaster who does wide-ranging conversations on a variety of topics, including politics, but who ends up supporting the Democrats after flirting with the right? Like, what are we really saying, right? As opposed to Joe Rogan, which is a bro podcaster who flirted with the left and ended up siding with the right. Like, what are we asking for exactly? Are we just saying a big popular male creator? Like, what are we saying exactly? And I feel like that everybody has a different answer for what they mean by Joe Rogan. I watched the Destiny episode, and it's the best episode I've watched. I mean, they're all good. Check out the clavicular one. Honest to God, if anybody wants to know who the fuck clavicular is, they should listen to that podcast. We explain the entire movement.
People took the initiative, and for what it's worth, Hasan has had a big mainstream glow up in the last 365 plus days, which I would say has been a net positive in general. It's been hard on Hasan, I think, because, you know, managing that type of attention when you're unhinged.
Some of the best D&D players in the world. Did you just follow me?
Yes, I did.
Why did you?
Hyper online.
Oh, Jake Paul did blackface.
Guy is hard enough. And then it feels like in the last 2 months, and this is what, I guess I'll let Kyle talk about it.
Fewer people know is that there's also currently a democratic civil war going on. You have Third Way, which is a literal corporate organization. They are going after Hasan Piker and by extension, everybody on the left flank of the Democratic Party. What they've done is they've smeared Hasan viciously and relentlessly. They've called him an anti-Semite, which he's not. They compare him to Nick Fuentes and say that this guy is just as extreme as Nick Fuentes. And what they're trying to do is cancel the entire left flank of the political spectrum and say, you can't take these people seriously. The Democratic Party needs to be a right-leaning party. They need to be a centrist party, and they need to represent the interests of the Israel lobby and corporations.
So this is really interesting. This is really true. What's missing is the black part. What's missing is the racism part. And I wanted to discuss that because that's always way more important than all of my white peers realize until they text me. Until they talk to some niggas. So I'm doing this preemptively. So let me skip to the end. He says something at the end that made me come down here and turn on the camera.
We're about to see what it's like when the left actually has control. And all I'll say is the last time the left flank actually had control was during FDR's reign. And what happened then? Well, at his peak, he had 80% of the House and 80% of the Senate. And he won 4 fucking presidential elections.
Okay, I will say this. It's not really true to say at 80-80 because Dixiecrats were fascists. And they were willing to do social democratic type programs, but for white people, right? And I don't think we have that type of... I don't think the Republican Party has the same type of politics that the Dixiecrats had. There was also people like Huey Long, which is a complicated figure. Right. So I don't think we could just look at the 30s and directly match it on because of the racial dynamics and racial politics. And I don't think FD Signifier is wrong to call that out. But I don't think the left of today has any Dixiecratic compromises it's making. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's not happening. Like, that's not a thing, really. In fact, like Hasan, myself, have spoken out in favor of reparations. Our favorite fucking rep is a black woman from Pittsburgh who has a 76% white district, and she campaigns for reparations now. Like, so, you know, I don't think that, you know, if we're being fair, that the left in America today has Dixiecratic commitments. It has blind spots and biases, 100%. But you understand the difference between apartheid and a blind spot? Like, we don't have, and this is a problem that the left actually does have, which is hyperbolic overstatement. Hyperbolic overstatement. It starts to get to a point where, you know, it becomes painful to talk to people because they're always trying to do this like ad nauseum exaggeration and hyperbolic overstatement and like a reasoning by analogy that doesn't fit. And it's like, bro, come on.
Because Americans got a little taste of something called social democracy, and they creamed themselves, and they said, oh, my God, let's only have this forever and ever and ever.
And by the way, you know, and this is a historical fact, and, you know, I'm sure, you know, FD is going to talk about it, but the Democratic Party started to pick up black votes for the first time in its history because of FDR. Before FDR, the Republican Party got 90% plus of the black vote. And FDR started winning the black vote. So it went from 90% Republican to, you know, 55-45. And then it was LBJ that made it 90% plus to the Democrats. That completed the kind of like the Southern strategy, the party switch, however you want to describe it.
Right. So the same thing would happen today.
All right. Right. Let's chat. I know. Let me just.
Like, FDR won 2/3 of the black vote in the 1936 election. So, yes. And by the way, Eleanor Roosevelt was a leading proponent of ending segregation, which was his wife. And his vice president, Wallace, was wanted to expel Dixiecrats. So, you know, FDR was associated with the left flank, the pro-equality, the anti-racist flank of the Democratic Party. FDR was aligned with them. Now, he wasn't far enough left on those issues, obviously, but he was pushing those issues, at least his closest allies. So, like, you know, I mean, that's just a historical fact. I think that people's idea of FDR or the politics of the 30s is not really grounded in a firm understanding of what really was going on.
I mean, this is not a gotcha to Kyle at all. But low-key, this is a big reason why I stay engaged with a lot of white leftists that I think are well-intentioned and fundamentally good and principled folks. Because the American left, the Western left, especially here in America, has an immense blind spot for the fundamental power of white supremacy and racism in this country historically. I've been reading, shout out to, I can't remember the brother's name, but it's a book I mentioned on the...
Which is completely and obviously true. And I would say that, like, that problem has actually created a severe intellectual whirlwind of liberalism, where we find ourselves caught into these liberal identity politics debates that end up trashing the ship of leftism on the rocks of reaction. And a lot of the people that are trying to, like, have these very important debates and conversations are then weaponized in favor of white supremacy. Ironically, going after Bernie Sanders in 2016 was the white supremacist goal, and they succeeded. They trashed Bernie Sanders with bad faith accusations of racial animus or blind spots. That it's not that there was nothing to it. Of course there was. But it was used for the purpose of reaction. It was used for the purpose of defending our racist status quo and electing super predators Hillary Clinton, the nominee, or the crime bill Joe Biden. It's not like we were, you know, it's not like the criticisms of Bernie Sanders' movement was being done in favor of a greater, more liberatory movement. No, it was being done in bad faith to destroy the left, which was more racially aware and focused in favor of who? The reactionaries. So listen, I'm all in favor of calling out the blind spots and having these conversations. But when you allow yourself to be weaponized against Bernie Sanders, against Abdul Al-Sayed, against, leftists of all stripes and colors, you are fucking up. You are actually unironically helping white supremacy.
Damn pod.
Because it's better to have a white leftist be elected who is anti-racist than to have Candace Owens elected. And like, I feel like that statement needs to be said like a million fucking times. It's better to have a cis white man who is anti-racist be elected to office than it is to elect a million Candace Owens. And like, that is the corollary of the opposite, which is white leftists should also be aware that racism has been a key element of their own. You know, if you're a white person, you are privileged because of being a white person. But that doesn't mean we bow down in favor of what? White, cis, reactionary Joe Biden?
Hubert Harrison, who was a black leftist in the 1900s. This is a recurring problem with the left. As the left wins, as Kyle is talking about here, with FDR, as we get tastes of social democracy, what we always seem to confuse is why the left eventually loses here in America. Even if you just consider the left, Bill Clinton in 1992 on into Al Gore, Barack Obama on into Hillary, and Biden into Kamala. There's a reason why the left wing, whatever you define that as an
I'm sorry, if you're going to define the left wing as any Democrat, well then yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're shifting our definitions around, right? Like we're shifting. We're shifting. I read the warning. I've read the warning. But if we're talking about leftist movements, but we include Bill Clinton, well, then we're not talking about leftist movements anymore.
Opposition to Republicans loses. And it's because there's never a strong response to the embedded and like deeply rooted racism of this country. There's never a strategic response to that. White leftists and moderates.
Okay. Well, okay. First of all, I don't know how else to put this, but white leftists cannot walk into black communities and implement some sort of response. The reason why white leftists are not electorally successful in black communities is not because they haven't had radical enough policies. It's because they are not part of the community and therefore they don't have credibility. Whereas centrists who are upholding white supremacy do have more credibility in black communities. And that's the contradiction that we all are struggling to get over. And it's a very tough contradiction. It's like, wait a minute. Why is Joe Biden so popular in South Carolina? He's a fucking white supremacist. It isn't because Bernie Sanders wasn't radical enough on anti-racism. It's because Bernie Sanders did not have credibility within the black community. And part of that credibility comes to connection with the institutional Democratic Party. The institutional Democratic Party has more credibility in the black community than the most anti-racist white leftists. And that is the contradiction that I don't think that the white leftists can solve on their own. They need solidarity with the black leftists that exist to create a cross-racial movement. I'm not going to be able to go into a black community and be like, I am anti-racist and I believe in reparations and blah, 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 blah. And then have everyone just go like, yeah, you got to trust that Mike guy. I need to have an actual legitimate relationship with that black community. And it's going to be an uphill climb because I'm a white man. Why the fuck would you trust my ass? And I think the problem is pointing the finger just at Bernie. That's bad. That's not good analysis. It's lazy analysis. There has to be a better understanding that we all have to be involved in the organizing process. And, I think that's what FD Signifier is about to say.
Fundamentally don't understand the full nature of racism in this country. They just don't. Sometimes it's malicious, but it's not even malicious. It's just the design of how white supremacy works. White supremacy is so invisible. It's like air. It's like dark matter. You don't even realize, if you don't know dark matter in like astrophysics or whatever, space science, dark matter makes up most of the universe, but you can't see it. But when they do the mathematical modeling of the universe, they can't get the universe to act right unless they have dark matter there. If you take dark matter out of the universe.
Mike, the reason I respect you is you're willing to fight through this tension. A lot of other white people will not do this, bro. If somebody wants to cancel me for being correct, I don't mind. But cancel me for being correct. I will continue to be an anti-racist until the day I die. The thing is, I've organized in communities of color as a white man, and I understand why the Democratic Party devils win, because they have trust in the community. That's what the centrist demons, the white supremacist demons, have done. They have generated patronage relationships with influential people in the community. Like there is a deeper problem here. And it's not just that our policies are not anti-racist enough. It's that we have to create an alternative, a counter-hegemonic organization that people can come to. That's why the Black Panthers were so dangerous. The Black Panthers were not dangerous just because of the radicalness of their positions. It's because they were building institutions inside the community that was building trust. And that was an alternative to what? The centrist, white supremacist patronage networks that exist. Because kids have got to be fed, and they've got to be clothed, and they need a school to go to, and they need a place to live, and they need a job. We have to deliver a counter-hegemonic structure. That's not just blathering and talking about stuff and ideas. And that's what I love. I love that. But we need a leftism of the 30s to come back. And what I mean by that is not the racist. What I mean by that is like the way socialist parties operate is they set up counter-hegemonic structures. There's a socialist daycare. There's a socialist sports club. We should have socialist D&D groups. We should have socialist fucking daycare centers. We should have socialist housing construction, like literally owned in common. And yes, I know that there's some utopian elements of this, but what I'm trying to say is we need a party that's more than just blathering about ideas, but is about the process of delivering. And like, that's the radical shit that no one's talking about yet. But that's, you know, we need socialism to not just be a label you apply yourself, but an experience that you live day to day. I want you to go to a socialist grocery store. I want you to wake up in a socialist apartment building. I want you to go and hang out in a socially managed space. And that shit, that will require state power. We need sharp universalist organizations with revolutionary foundations. Absolutely. The SA Soccer League is a great idea, but that's just one thing. That's like one element of what I'm saying. Like, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about practically. I would love for Mamdani to set up a program for co-op housing construction where the government gives loans to nonprofit housing developers, and they develop with pre-approved plans and housing units that are permanently affordable, 100% permanently affordable. And maybe you could have like co-op members buy in, right? So it's not 100% government loans. It's like, you know, let's say that I have to put a down payment down or whatever, but I get access to credit because it's a government-backed loan, right? So instead of me having to qualify for the loan or the company that I'm qualifying, we set up a nonprofit and we develop a housing co-op that's permanently affordable. And that means that I can't be enriched by the equity. The equity will be held in common for the residents. And the rent that'll be charged will be based on maintenance and taxes or whatever the fuck, as opposed to requiring some sort of profitability. And, you know, so it's a permanently affording housing model. Like, and you know, it can never be privatized. Like that kind of shit. So you don't just, and the reason why that's a good idea is because instead of the government have to pay 100% for like a public housing development where they'd have to bring up all the money, that is a way of creating private action in a socialized direction. I would love to have that. That is part of the Vienna model, but we need to have like, how do we prevent it from getting sucked up by like consulting fees? How do we prevent like the construction, you know, the right contractors that, you know, don't overcharge or price gouge or that are actually reliable? Like the actual process of construction, how do we make sure it's done in a competitive way, right? How do we make sure that labor costs are both equitable but not a profit gouge, right? Like you don't want to hire people and they'll work for $1,000 an hour as a carpenter. We need to make sure that the carpenters are being paid fair wages, but it's not an organized crime grift. You know, that the units cost $300,000 per unit instead of $1 million per unit. That's where effective social democratic governance, that's where it exists or fails, with whether or not you can actually deliver the units at a fair price and keep them permanently affordable. And that requires societal structures and buy-in.
Universal mathematic frameworks of these astrophysicists, the entire universe stops working properly. So even though they can't see it, they can't point to it with their telegraphs, they know it's there and they act accordingly in their science. And the left doesn't do that. The left doesn't say, once we...
The thing about dark matter is it's not that we know it exists. It's that there's some factor which we don't understand that is affecting the way that mass is moving. And so we hypothesize dark matter. It's a placeholder. It's a fudge factor. It's not that, you know what I mean? So there could be something else happening here. We don't know what it is, but we hypothesize dark matter as a solution because it's a fudge factor. So it's not, I get what he's saying by analogy, but my autism will not let me, my autism has to step in and go, you need a better analogy because we know racism exists.
Do these things, how are we going to keep these things as Black people are involved? And so specifically to this thing about FDR and the New Deal and all the things that happened under FDR, I talked about this, I can't remember which video, but the thing that people don't engage with is that all of FDR's programs died. First off, no, let me go back. The social democracy that Kyle is talking about. And all the FDR programs that were implemented were only allowed under the tacit agreement that it wasn't going to be given to no niggas. GI Bill.
Okay, so that's not 100% true. Some programs were shielded, were blocked for black people. Some programs weren't. So it's not 100% true, and it's more complicated than that. And I know that's an unsatisfying thing to say, but that's why FDR won 2/3 of the black vote in 1936, because a lot of the programs did go to black people and was helping a lot of black people's lives got better. Now, they were still struggling and they were still discriminated against, but they were getting material benefits. So, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to say that racism didn't exist. I'm trying to say this because black people in America were willing to vote for FDR, even though it wasn't totally fair, because they were getting real material benefits. So imagine the power of a politics that was fair and delivering material benefits. And that's what we're calling for. I'm not calling for a racist carve out. Okay, I'm not. I'm calling for fair intersectional programs. I want to perfect what FDR laid out. Like, we're looking at FDR not because he was perfect and we want to perfectly emulate him. We're saying that even as flawed as he was, he delivered hugely. So let's correct the flaws and we'll do even better this time. You know what I mean? Like, FDR was an advancement over what was coming before. And we can look back and say the flaws of the compromises with the Dixiecrats and white supremacy, that is part of what caused it to unravel. So this time, we're not going to make those same mistakes. We're going to learn from those mistakes. So we're not bringing up FDR just to reify it and deify it and worship it as an idol. We're not idolizing it. We are demonstrating, however, that progress is popular. And, you know, we are aware, and obviously I would never support any kind of Green New Deal that was racist. And if you go and look at Medicare for All, it's an intersectional Medicare for All. This is a point that kind of pisses me off. And, you know, I don't know, I'm not saying that, I'm not speaking to F signifier here. I'm just saying a lot of people don't understand that Medicare for All is not Medicare for all. Medicare for All is a marketing term, okay? Medicare for All, the policy, is intersectional single payer, universal but intersectionally aware single payer, written by Ilhan Omar. Okay, it's not just Medicare but everyone. It is much better than you think. Okay, Medicare for All is just the marketing term for normies. All right, like, that's at least the Medicare for All that Bernie ran on. Okay, for the love of God. If you look at Medicare for All and you think, oh, it's written by an old white man, therefore it's bad. It wasn't. It's Ilhan Omar's Medicare for All. If that makes you support it more, that's the truth. And I think it's our jobs as pundits to explain that. Medicare for All is way better than Medicare. That's why Medicare for All was endorsed by major groups. Let me see if I can find this. I showed it like weeks ago. Fuck. I showed this like last time we had this conversation because it pisses me off so much the way that people don't understand what actually was taking place. You know what I mean? Like, Medicare for All, it is written in an I think she might have even said intersectional. There you go. So under Medicare for All, unlike private insurance, you will always keep the same doctor and hospital. Health care is the issue of intersectionality in the broader justice movement. She literally says it, okay? When they were campaigning for Bernie Sanders, for the love of God, please. This is frustrating as fuck for me because there's a lot of people that, I'm a policy wonk, okay? I wrote policy. I worked in the Committee of Urban Affairs. I ran for office. I wrote my own platform. I've been doing this shit for a long time. I went to law school. I studied political science and philosophy and history in undergrad. Like, I have spent my life in these weeds. And let me tell you, Medicare for All is not Medicare for All. Medicare for All is an intersectionally aware single payer program that the most radical left-winger on anti-racism would adore. It's about building new hospitals in black communities. Okay? That's what Medicare for All means. Fuck.
Housing bill, all that shit, whites only. They weren't even giving it to Irish and Jewish people at the time. They had to pledge. Irish people had to pledge, and Italians had to pledge crackify white in order to get their piece of the social democracy pie in the early 1900s. That growth of the American economy and the American middle class and all of that was only allowed under the understanding that black people were not going to be included in that.
Okay, first of all, FD, I get what you're saying, but that is not completely correct. There was a lot of people that were arguing that black people be included, and there were people that were trying to keep black people out. Some places they succeeded, in other places they did not. It's not that straightforward. And groups like, for example, the United Auto Workers became massive fonts of anti-racist activism. So, you know, the idea that just social democracy was just a whites-only Volksreich is a simplification of history that I would say is actually not true. And I think there are, especially things like housing, that it is true. The housing policies is where it was the most racist, without a doubt. And we were seeing the effects of where it was most racist, absolutely, without a doubt. But like Social Security, there were carve-outs for certain types of jobs that were overwhelmingly people of color, but there were but black people that were in different jobs did get access to Social Security, which significantly reduced senior poverty for black people as well. The first public housing built by the New Deal was in a black neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot, it's a lot more complex than that, right? And I say that because, and the reason why I'm saying that, it's not because I'm trying to be like, oh my God, ha 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 ha, FDR is just he's God. I'm trying to say that a lot of the people that are celebrating the New Deal understand the New Deal and the complexities of the coalitions that were taking place at the time. That's not what we're advocating for now. And so, as much as I want to take the blame for some compromise that was made in the 30s, I think we should also be discussing about the political realities as they are now. And I feel like this conversation is off the rails.
Then, after black folks started being like, shit, and tearing shit up in the South and across the country, after it became clear that two Americas couldn't really exist, they started saying, okay, let's give a little bit of this, let's give a little bit of that. And once that started to happen, the popularity of these social programs plummeted. I talked about it.
Okay, and this is where I just completely disagree with FD Signifier. The most popular programs in America are Medicare and Social Security, and they are universal programs, and they are extremely popular. Universality is popular. It is means testing that's unpopular. If a program is perceived to be received by the poor, that becomes a program that's being received by people of color, right? That's how it becomes perceived. And then Republicans and white conservative Democrats work to cut the program. Because it's means tested, they racialize it in order to destroy it. Universal programs cannot be racialized as easily. That is part of our political economy that we're arguing for. So like, things like TANF, they were racialized because they were means tested. So therefore they were able to attack them. Food stamps, they racialize it. But food stamps are popular. Food stamps are a popular program, even through the attempts to racialize them. Why? Because a lot of white people get that shit.
The hell's this dude's name? Who got shot in the neck? What's the motherfucker got shot in the neck? Charlie Kirk. I talked about it in the Charlie Kirk video. Oh, this is so disrespectful to me. This video should have like a million more views. So the 1930s. Am I tripping? Yeah, I talked about it. Don't make fun of me. Yeah, okay. The New Deal was at its core a socialist work program that lifted millions of Americans into the middle class out of poverty. But it only passed because it was initially designed to exclude undeserving black Americans as much as possible. Whether or not racism will ever be solved is a whole other question. Right, and I'm not perfectly equipped to give a take that I feel super confident about that. Well, you have to give me some time to research. But I'll just say this. I am not willing to wait until racism is solved to get rid of capitalism. Does that make sense?
Capitalism and racism are one and the same. They are mutually reinforcing systems. Capitalism arose on the backs of racism. Racism was a key element of what Marx called primitive accumulation. That's why communists have always been anti-racist. Doesn't mean that It doesn't mean that specific communists were not racist. It doesn't mean that specific communist parties had racist ideologies. It doesn't mean that all left-wing parties are, that's just not true. And like, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Like with the New Deal, they had something called the Works Projects Administration. I think it hired 7 million people, hiring at peak. Okay, sorry. 3.3 million at the peak. 300,000 of those were black people. So like a lot of the New Deal went to black people. Now, like that's like a major program, and that's why a lot of black people ended up voting for FDR in 1936, 2/3, because they saw hundreds of thousands of black people getting hired. Now, things like Social Security is more complicated. Social Security is not racially biased. However, it is biased. It has colorblind racism, because it says certain jobs like domestic jobs and agricultural jobs are not included in Social Security, which I think at the time was something like half of black workers were in those fields. So half of black workers were excluded from Social Security, but half of black workers were not. And so, and as you know, as time has changed, we've had a lot less black people are now worked in agricultural jobs, and more of them are in more traditional jobs. So the gap between coverage and Social Security has narrowed due to the nature of how things have changed. So was Social Security originally designed in a racist way? Yes. Yes, it was, but it had its seeds of its own. The destruction of racism, as like agricultural work for black people declined as a share of their labor, they were integrated more and more into Social Security. So I think all I'm trying to say is it's more complicated than just black people were excluded from the New Deal. That's actually not true. They were not completely excluded. They were partially excluded. They got partially benefited, and partially they were excluded, and that was racist and bad. So when we're developing our new programs going forward, we're going to make them even more popular by making them more universal. And it's not viable for a left that has any kind of chance at power to, racially exclude anyone.
Since I think that's the cleanest thing I can feel confident about. I have no hope in racism being solved under capitalism, period. Racism as a social structure and its effects will be easier.
No, and by the way, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to defend FDR. What I'm trying to say is I'm not as pessimistic. Now, it's easy for me as a white man to not be pessimistic. You know what I mean? I understand why it's easier for me as a white man to be pessimistic. I'm fully aware of that. I'm just saying that it's not just like white people that are saviors here that are going to do this. It's leaders like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Abdul Al-Sayed and AOC and Zohran Mamdani. I don't know if you noticed, but many of those leaders, they ain't fucking white, okay? The leaders that we're talking about for these left-wing programs are made up of a lot of non-white people who have programs that are intentionally designed to be intersectional, which means disproportionately help marginalized communities. But the reason they're going to work is because they're universal. So it's going to help me too. So white people are going to buy in because they are going to benefit. Now, some white people are going to be fucking racist. Of course they are. But there's 70% of Americans will be behind that kind of social democratic program. We'll still have the 30% fascist remnant that we need to control. There's no doubt. But I'm still optimistic. I believe we could fix a lot of these problems, And I don't think that I think when we talk about these historical programs in an aspirational fashion, I don't talk about the New Deal because I'm like, look at how they did this bad thing. We need to replicate the compromises. I look at the New Deal for the successes that they didn't compromise on. And there are a lot of those.
To address
convert. If you want to convert the far right, you have to have them under your control first. They submit to authority and power only. So you have to have authority and power if you want to convert the right. They are looking for the big daddy.
And diffuse under socialism, under communism, under whatever anarchism, whichever left-wing ideology is your favorite Pokemon. I am more confident in addressing racism under those frameworks than under capitalism by far. There is no chance of solving racism under capitalism. Capitalism fundamentally, especially in the West, requires racism.
See, I agree with him 100%. I feel like FD and I would have an interesting conversation. I feel like FD and I would have an interesting conversation. I'll have to figure out a way for us to hang out at some point, because like I agree with him. By the way, like I want you to understand that there's not just one flavor of white. This is a very important point that I think everybody needs to understand. There is flavors of white, okay? All white people have privilege, okay? All white people have privilege, but Southern white people are a different breed. And if I only knew Southern white people, I would be as pessimistic as you could possibly imagine, okay? But I'm not saying that Northern white people aren't racist. A ton of Northern white people are racist as fuck. Like, of course they are. But in a district that's 76% white in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they voted for a black radical woman who ran on a Reparations Now platform. That's not happening in a 76% white district in Georgia. I don't care what the fuck you say, okay? All right? There is a different type of white people. There's different flavors of white, okay? So, you know, it is what it is. And I think being aware of that diversity is important if we're going to construct a cross-racial coalition for power, all right? And here's the thing. I don't mind people yelling at me, because it's not just what's true, right? Like I know for a fact that Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan was a intersectional plan, which means on net, there would be disproportionate investments in marginalized communities. Meaning dollar for dollar, black people would see more money, new money flowing to them than white people would. That is a fact. Bernie Sanders got his policies, black people would be seeing more money on net flow to them per capita than white people would. That's just a fact. And I think that's a good thing. Now, and just to make that a secondary step, white people would also see a benefit, right? Because a lot of white communities are closer to being able to provide a dignified life for their residents than communities of color, because we live in a racist society. So in order to make everybody live the dignified life, that would mean investment in every community, white and black. But disproportionately, more money would flow into communities of color because they're further behind due to segregation, due to historical underinvestment. And that has always been part of the program. Now, it hasn't been explained in that way because, you know, why hasn't it been explained in that way often? The reason why it hasn't been explained in that way often is because Republicans will try to fucking weaponize that explanation. Republicans will try to say that it is a transfer of wealth from white people to black people, that it's like actually reverse racism. And the truth is that it will be a transfer of wealth largely from white people to people of color. But what kind of white people? Billionaires, motherfucker! Are you a billionaire? Whiteness is a lie too. Whiteness is also a lie to white people. This is an important point that I think a lot of people need to hear. Whiteness is also a lie to white people. Whiteness is a lie that convinces a lot of white nerds that they're the same as Elon Musk. It is a lie to you so he can pick your fucking pocket. Whiteness was a lie to the Scotch-Irish overseer so that he would work and live in a mud hut next to the slaves while master lived in the big house. It was just as much of a lie to that guy. Now, being said, racism, if his life was better than being a fucking slave. And that's the racial bribe. That's the racial bribe. That's the essence of the racial bribe. That's why racism worked, to support capitalism. And, you know, it is what it is.
Because race is a class construct.
How many billionaires
so with that in mind,
isn't it like 1,000? How many billionaires are in the US? 900 to 1,100. So 1,000. I was right. Depends. Wall Street Journal says it's between 902 and 1135, depending on how the stock market's doing that day.
Though, with that in mind, and this is kind of the reason why I wanted to bring this up, as we look to the future of mainstream political wins for the Democrats, not the left, but the Democrats, you have to keep in mind that racism is the hook. Racism is what will be used to counteract and erode whatever progress is made. And many people that, I'm not going to call them leftists, many people that enjoy and appreciate social democracy and socialist programs and government funded programs and unions and workers collectives and all of those things that are a big part of any leftist governing framework can still be racist. And they can be racist, especially on the left, in ways they don't even fully understand. What I'm trying to get at is that as one of many examples of how racism would erode workers' movements, unions, socialist action, is unions would be segregated if there were black unions at all. And these white unions would not allow black people in them. So when they went on strike, the business owners would hire black people to do the same jobs. Much as is typical of the way people respond to have ingrained hatred for their peers as opposed to their oppressors, instead of looking at what the capitalists were doing by manipulating these poor black folks that were not allowed to work anywhere else, they rioted and burned down East St. Louis. You trying to get me to have a seizure with that sound, Praxis. You trying to have me foaming at the mouth. POV, white and ignorant non-black leftists trying to comprehend when revolutionary Pan-African leftists correctly articulate that anti-blackness as a sentiment would exist even after capitalism is done away with. Being a socialist, communist, Marxist, anarchist doesn't immune you from upholding anti-blackness.
I mean, that's definitely true. I don't think that if we have socialism, it's instantly going to like change the cultural mores and expectations and beliefs of billions of people. It's not a fucking like zap everyone's brain, ray. But building a socialist project will require building a socialist people, a socialist mankind. Socialism is not just material reality, it's also an interplay with ideas and beliefs as well. As Marx very correctly pointed out, there will be a base and there will be a superstructure. If you want to hold on to a socialist construction of the means of production, you're going to need to have a socialist superstructure, a socialist culture, a socialist belief systems, socialist religion, socialist laws. Like, it's going to be a completely different society, right? You can imagine how Christianity is under capitalism and how it's changed to do what? Worship the capitalist class. Whereas Christianity that's under socialism, a socialist future, it'll probably exist. Religious belief will probably continue to exist, at least for a while. It may be focused more on the good works that Jesus Christ proclaimed as a duty, right? You could imagine a liberation theology Christianity existing much more commonly in a socialist world. So ethnic strife, resentment, things like that are going to continue to exist and will have to be slowly dismantled. And, there's some uncomfortable conversations about the concept of national or tribal identity and the way it is weaponized by reactionaries.
The fact of the matter is, whatever wins for the left that come, if they aren't in tandem with some type of plan or projection to address the innate racism that its country was built on, that most folks don't notice, we're gonna be back at square one.
I agree with this completely, by the way, but I also don't think that there's any, like, say what you will about DSA, it's an anti-racist organization. It doesn't mean that it's not disproportionately white or, it's still a white, overwhelmingly white org. Holding anti-racist opinions doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to be accepted by every community. But as you can see in New York City, as you enter more and more communities and you deliver, that is going to be the way you break the kind of status quo, right? And so, be aware of that. I just don't think that, I get what people are saying when they're like, oh, the New Deal was very racist in a lot of ways. And that's true. I don't think there's anybody when they reference the New Deal, they're not referencing the racist carve-outs, right? What they're talking about is the radical reformation of the government very quickly in a way that was in favor of working class people. I don't think anybody now, when they reference the New Deal, they're referencing the racist carve-outs and the compromises. That's not what Kyle Kalinske or Bernie Sanders or AOC or Ilhan Omar are referring to. Alrighty, chat. Well, it looks like we survived the fire drill. Fucking annoying ass fire drill. I wanted to say more shit during the Vosh video, but I thought that was important. And here's the thing about Vosh, right? Like, I'm sure that he is now trying to position himself as a Hasan orbiter. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the plan, right? You know, because that's the viable, you know, Hasan is the biggest leftist creator. But Vosh is very hostile to Hasan and has been for a decade. And just because he's openly changing his tune, it's because he's trying to chase clout. Okay? Like, it's that simple. And, you know, he was trying to destroy me, working with Destiny. He was trying to destroy Hasan and calling him a terrorist supporter when he brought on a Yemeni teenager. You know, he tried to say that we were all tankies supporting Russia during the invasion of Ukraine. This guy is a social climber. He is a bounder. And, you know, I'm sorry for speaking the truth. What do you want me to do? Lie? And he has never done, as far as I'm aware, he's never apologized to me. He's never apologized to Hasan. He's never apologized to his victims. So, like, what do you want me to say? You know? What do you want me to fucking say? He wanted to take Hasan down to become the largest leftist streamer. Yeah.
In Israel.
You would.
I would.
Jennifer Welsh interviewed Jack Schlossberg on the I've Had It podcast.
I would continue funding the Iron Dome in Israel.
You would.
I would.
Jennifer Welsh interviewed Jack Schlossberg on the I've Had It podcast, and he says point blank that he wants to keep sending money to Israel, that he thinks it should continue existing as an ethno-state with unequal rights, that he thinks the U.S. should continue being tight with Israel long into the future, and that he would vote for Hakeem Jeffries today for Speaker of the House. He also cannot bring himself to say that—
I can't believe I called this guy as a fucking fraud easily and instantly.
Israel has committed war crimes, and he just sounds so knowingly guilty and sad the whole time because I think he realizes that what he's saying is bullshit. Jack is running for New York's 12th congressional district, in which
Jesus fucking Christ. And how did he get big? He's like related to the Kennedys, right? And he was like shit talking Trump. How do people like that fucking shit, dude? Christ. By the way, Jennifer Welsh for Senate in Oklahoma. I would not wish that. I would not wish running for Senate in Oklahoma on my worst enemy. I really wouldn't. All right, so it looks like oil is up 6.5% today, chat. Trump threatens Iran again as ceasefire deadline looms. U.S. gears up for peace talks. All right, chat, I gotta talk about this. So yesterday was the Michigan state party conference, and Valerie McMorrow, Abdul El-Sayed, and Stevens, the Zionist, were all trying to campaign for a party endorsement. The deal that we are making with Iran will be far better than the JCPOA, commonly referred to as the Iran nuclear deal, and by Barack Hussein Obama and Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst deals ever made, having to do with the security of our country. It was a guaranteed road to a nuclear weapon, which will not and cannot happen with the deal we're working on. They actually gave $1.7 billion in green cash, loaded onto a Boeing 757 and flown to Iran for Iranian leadership to spend any way they saw fit. He emptied out all the cash from the banks in D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. Those bankers said they'd never seen anything like it before. In addition, hundreds of billions of dollars was paid to Iran. If I did not terminate that deal, nuclear weapons would have been used on Israel and all over the Middle East, including our cherished U.S. military bases. The fake news, like lightweight Washington Post journalist David Ignatius, loves to talk about the JCPOA, knowing that it was dangerous and a complete embarrassment to our country. If a deal happens under Trump, it will guarantee peace, security, and safety, not only for Israel and the Middle East, but for Europe, America, and everywhere else. It will be something that the entire world will be proud of instead of years of embarrassment and humiliation that we have been forced to suffer due to incompetent and cowardly leadership, President Donald J. Trump. And like the Michigan shit is so fucking funny to me because it was very clear. It was very clear that the overwhelming majority of people were well behind Abdul. I feel like the data is kind of lagging where the reality is that the grassroots energy is overwhelmingly with the left. Overwhelmingly with the left.
Today, the Michigan Democratic Party has announced its endorsements for key statewide offices at the party's 2026 endorsement.
Her march doesn't beat the mayor. Oh, God. Okay. I mean, and I have to say this is it's, you know, one of the reasons why I'm not as popular is because I think that if you're one of these people, I really don't like you. I just think you're a fucking frivolous moron. And it's just really deep in my soul. Like, if you looked at the presidential election of 2020 and you said Pete Buttigieg is my guy, there's something wrong with you. Like, there's something legitimately wrong with you. And it's really deeply in your soul. And it's not even cringe. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He says blather. He's 5'8". He had no experience, and you thought he could be president of the United fucking States of America. He was an unsuccessful mayor of Indiana's 4th largest city. It's not even a city, it's a fucking town. He doesn't say anything. And this is like a serious gap of empathy for me, because I can almost understand why somebody is a fearful right winger. Like, your brain, you're full of fear, you're a bigot. Like, I can almost understand this, but understanding Pete Buttigieg supporter, I don't know how to explain it. I really cannot explain it. Yet there are many people that like him, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I cannot empathize. It's the same thing with the Mallory McMorrow shit. Like, what is wrong with you? She doesn't say anything. It's just platitudinous bullshit. What for a better tomorrow and her face? What do you like? What do you like? I don't get it. Help me. Help me understand. Help me understand. She stands for nothing. What are you liking here? I don't get it. It's just sports, but why do you like that team? Like, I am a Penguins fan, right? Why am I a Penguins fan? I've been watching the Penguins hockey team since I was 4. I was raised in it, okay? Like, it is in my blood. Like, were you raised to be a Mallory McMorrow fan? No. You didn't know who this fucking was 3 weeks ago. How the fuck are you a fan of this? She's an effective public speaker. Is she? I listened to her and it's boring as shit. It's meaningless blathering. I don't know how to understand it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Maybe this will help me understand.
Out over Hasan Piker. I got 4 explanations. I'm Keegan, and I talk about the psychology of politics. Hasan represents what the corporate centrists fear most. A progressive takeover of the Democratic Party is a greater threat to their status, their wealth, and their power than Republicans winning elections. True. At the heart of every liberal's ego is the understanding that they are more moral than conservatives, which, to be fair, is true.
I actually heard someone describe it as liberals are just conservatives that hate conservatives. So it's really like it's an ideology of self-loathing, which is like they want to morally posture as superior to their own positions. They want to like intellectually distance themselves from their own views.
But progressives and socialists make centrist liberals feel like they're the conservatives.
Because they are.
So leftists like Hasan Piker undermine their sense of moral superiority. True. Corporate centrists control the Democratic Party. They've lost to Trump twice. They've failed to stop Trump from getting his agenda through the way the Republicans keep doing to the Democrats. And the Democratic Party is less popular than ever before.
These are bagger points.
And I'm sure you can figure out the psychology going on here. It's easier to scapegoat the left than it is to accept the blame that they rightly deserve. And finally, frankly,
eco protection. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a large part of it is true, right? Because, like, why are they fighting so hard against somebody like Abdul or AOC or Zohran Mamdani? Because let's say that AOC wins the presidency and we win a major landslide, and then she enacts the Green New Deal. History will look back at the period of time before her as a complete failure. People will think about Joe Biden as often as they think of Willard Fillmore. They will be erased from history as irrelevant seat warmers. If anything, damaging reactionaries that, kept the country and the planet dangerously close to fascist ecocide. AOC will be on fucking monuments. Like, that is, and they know it. And they know it. And that's why Barack Obama, by the way, chat, sat down to read from a child's book with Zohran Mamdani because he understands that he's a fucking loser. And he wants his legacy to be associated with progressive, as part of a continuum of progressivism. Barack Obama sat down with Zohran Mamdani because he understands that he was a loser. And so you should consider that to be a sign of our imminent victory, not a sign of Zoran doing some sort of evil thing. Yes, I don't like Barack Obama because of the policies that he enacted in office, and I consider him to be probably the biggest mischance in American history. I don't think there's been a bigger failure of leadership than Barack Obama's presidency and refusal to confront the Republicans. He tried to do this like, bipartisanship. He focused 8 years of bipartisanship while they were spitting in his face. And that blunder led to Donald Trump because we didn't fix the economy and go after the billionaires that caused the Great Recession. He protected them. And that's what led to Barack Obama handed the keys directly to Donald Trump because of his own failures to reckon with the capitalist class. And he was an empire. He continued the empire that exploded under George W. Bush. These are the facts. So I consider, Obama to be largely a failure. All right. And I think that there's a strong case that every president, including him, are war criminals. Since the end of World War II, every president of the United States has committed wanton war crimes around the world. That's without a doubt true. And so what I'm trying to say here is when Barack Obama is like doing a TikTok short with Zohran Mamdani, that's not a sign that Zohran Mamdani has compromised. It's a sign of fear, of irrelevance from a narcissist. And that's a sign of us winning. So, ultimately, I think it's a very funny litmus test when people are trying to make, oh my God, you stood with Barack Obama and you sat next to Barack Obama. And the reality is that most people around the world like Obama. If you did a poll of the world, Barack Obama probably has like an 80% approval rating. And so what are we doing here? What are we fucking doing here? In America, he's the most popular, political figure. Trying to spend our political capital and our motion attacking Barack Obama is the dumbest shit on the fucking planet. He's retired, right? Do you spend your time attacking Jimmy Carter for Suharto and the Shah? No, you go, yeah, he's saying how Israel did it apartheid. You recognized where he was helping you in our positions. You don't go and talk about how, because he's irrelevant as a political figure, except in the way that he can give us ethos, credibility. So ultimately, condemn Obama's policies, condemn the political history that he has foisted onto the country and onto the world, but nonetheless accept that normies like the guy and you're just gonna ruin the vibes by spending your time attacking Obama. Like, what are you fucking doing? Are you stupid? Are you trying to lose to centrists? What was on my feed after watching the FD video? Alabama shirt. Alabama shirt. Yeah. Oh, wow. I can't believe how racist the Southern white cops are. Wow. Cops. He's got the full arm sleeve. This guy's definitely not racist.
Hasan is a Turkish dude from a Muslim family. One of the two groups that centrist liberals seem to have the most bigotry towards is Muslims. What is the psychology behind these centrist freak?
Completely true. What a banger. If I was on Instagram or Threads, I'd give this guy a like. All right, chat. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, even through the fire alarm. I know it kind of sucks. It kind of fucked up our momentum on the stream, and we had to watch an old video of me making fun of Bosch. But thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I thought it looks like Zio isn't streaming, so I'm gonna send you guys over to the queen herself, Casey Tron, one of the OGs, one of the wokest of the woke. I cover the Strokes, no. The Stokes, no. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Make sure you guys go check out the newest episode of Reaction Podcast. The newest episode of the Reaction Podcast. Please go listen. Support it. Help it grow. We are building something that's really fucking great. So come out, hang out, listen, review it, yell at us. If you think something sucks, tell us what it sucks. If you think something's good, tell us what's good. I'm working on creating more. I'm getting these motherfuckers to be on the camera, but I know that the modern podcast, most of us Most of them are on camera these days. It is what it is. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. What? The Reaction Podcast. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. Socialism will win. And free Palestine. See you soon. No war on Iran. Bye.